A tense man nervously swallows hard as anxiety begins to take hold. A vibrant blonde high school girl enthusiastically confesses her deep love for manga. A short-haired, red-headed girl holding his hand playfully asks if that confession is appropriate right now. A girl wearing a traditional kimono anxiously asks how she looks in her outfit. A confident, blue-haired student dramatically prepares to reveal her newest personal obsession. A hand points dramatically forward, signaling a sudden, decisive declaration. Screams of excitement echo as people recognize the distressed, dark-haired boy as Kim Yoo-sung. Consciousness begins to fade away into a blur of swirling light. A desperate question looms in the dark, wondering how things went wrong. A heart monitor spikes as a voice calls out for the teacher. Waking up bandaged in a hospital bed, the disoriented boy wonders where he is while someone loudly alerts the teacher of his awakening. The doctor asks if the boy can hear him and remembers who he is, as the protagonist silently realizes he is actually a simple graduate student. He recalls dying in a raging laboratory fire while desperately attempting to salvage his research data before losing consciousness. Observing his clinical surroundings, the reincarnated soul confirms he has awakened inside a hospital room. A sudden wave of shock hits him as he makes a realization. Staring at the reflection, he is horrified to discover that the face looking back is not his own. Piecing together faint memories from the hospital, he begins to understand his bizarre new reality. He looks out the window, realizing his soul now inhabits another person's body. He learns the body belongs to Kim Yoo-sung, an ordinary second-generation Korean-Japanese high school student whose family immigrated to Japan. The original youth had apparently been struck by a car over the weekend, remaining comatose until now. He reasons that his original self perished in the fire, allowing his soul to take over the empty vessel of Kim Yoo-sung. He feels a surge of joy, realizing this bizarre situation has finally liberated him from the nightmare of graduate school. He warns himself to stay grounded, knowing that unexpected misfortune could easily snatch this second chance away. A lingering doubt remains as he approaches his new home. The family car screeches to a halt outside their modest suburban house. His mother warmly advises him to rest, and he awkwardly offers a compliant response while climbing the stairs. Arriving at the top of the stairs, he locates Kim Yoo-sung's private bedroom. He marvels at how his body instinctively navigates the house through lingering muscle memory. Feeling like an intruder, he hesitantly cracked the door open and murmured an apology to the empty room. His eyes widen in absolute horror at what lies inside the bedroom. He's completely speechless as his mind struggles to process the sight. Massive shelves packed with vibrant manga volumes dominate the bedroom walls. Colorful, flashy posters of magical anime girls adorn the bedroom walls. An array of detailed anime figurines poses proudly on display shelves. Looking around at the immense collection of merchandise, the truth becomes undeniable. He realizes with absolute certainty that Kim Yoo-sung was a hardcore, dedicated otaku. Despair washes over him as he reluctantly accepts his predecessor's hidden, embarrassing lifestyle. Collapsing to the floor in defeat, he desperately questions if he can successfully masquerade as a dedicated otaku. He worries his parents will uncover his identity if he acts differently, yet he knows absolutely nothing about anime to maintain the ruse. Catching a glimpse of a nearby poster in the mirror's reflection, his confusion deepens. Examining the poster, he realizes the featured character shares Kim Yoo-sung's exact face, distinctive hairstyle, and mannerisms. A sudden, terrifying realization strikes him, causing him to recoil in pure shock. He stares at the poster as a horrific theory begins to form. He desperately tries to convince himself that he hasn't been trapped inside a fictional manga universe. Frantically searching the shelves, he notes the vast variety of genres, desperately wondering what kind of story he has been thrown into. He pulls out a book, immediately cringing at its overly dramatic Chunibyo-style fantasy cover illustration. Flipping through the pages, a faint sense of familiarity washes over him as memories of a specific character resurface. He remembers a wildly successful, record-breaking shonen romance manga that had captured the hearts of millions worldwide. The series was celebrated for revitalizing classic harem tropes, blending nostalgic cliches with a fresh, critically acclaimed narrative style. However, the controversial finale discarded the beloved main heroines, sparking a massive, furious backlash from the entire fandom. Online comments explode with outrage, fiercely complaining about the completely unexpected childhood friend ending of the manga. Sitting on his bedroom floor, Kim Yoo-sung decides to read the manga to understand his new reality. He is suddenly overcome by pure dread, sweating as his mind reels at the horrifying details of the plot. The rapid flipping of book pages echoes softly through the silent dark row. An oppressive dark void swallows any remaining shreds of his optimism. He lets out a massive, exhausted yawn as the morning light finally breaks. Sitting alone at a restaurant table, he reflects on having pulled a complete all-nighter to finish reading. His mother enters the room wearing an apron, holding up her phone as she asks him to watch the shop. He mentally groans, dryly agreeing to his creator's request with a deadpan expression. His mother cheerfully departs, leaving him to marvel at how effortlessly his facade worked. Tying on his apron, he prepares to work, welcoming the first customer as the door chime rings. He suddenly freezes, his eye widening in shock as he looks at the newcomers. He spots a familiar-looking blonde boy with a yellow-haired twin-tailed girl clinging tightly to his arm. The cheerful girl beams with starry-eyed affection, happily announcing that she is treating him today. The blonde boy scratches his head in mild embarrassment, looking quite troubled by her closeness. Yu-sung breaks out into a nervous sweat, staring in absolute disbelief at the pair. A sharp wave of panic hits him as he recognizes them instantly. He is stunned to realize he is looking at the actual manga protagonist, Sakamoto Ryuji. The two customers stand in the restaurant, staring back with complete confusion at Yu-sung's frozen posture. Sweat pours down Yu-sung's face as his mind plunges into absolute terror. He internally screams as the undeniable reality of his book possession sets in. An open notebook pages through as he desperately tries to organize the facts of his situation. He reviews his transition from a deceased college student to the body of high schooler Kim Yu-sung. He recalls that the body he possessed is merely an insignificant background extra in this rom-com story. He remembers the generic, trashy fantasy novels he used to stay up reading in his past life. He realizes that a rom-com setting offers none of the helpful cheat abilities found in fantasy worlds. Watching the pair, he rationalizes that a normal life is possible if the story proceeds smoothly. He firmly resolves to avoid any contact with the protagonist, Sakamoto Ryuji, to stay safe. He convinces himself that staying out of the spotlight will guarantee him a peaceful, ordinary life. Gentle, shimmering sparkles fade away as time begins to transition forward.
A cute decorated banner marks the passage of time as his busy new life begins.
He works relentlessly, studying every book in his room, securing a full scholarship, and joining the student council. Sitting at a desk, he reviews paperwork alongside a red-eyed girl, diligently planning out his future. Despite his continuous efforts, his soul remains completely locked inside Yu-sung's body. Leaning back in his chair, he ponders how to prepare for any unexpected events in this fictional world. He notes down stock investment ideas on a pad only to realize he lacks the necessary capital. A sudden inspiration strikes him as he considers the idea of working out. He determines that building physical strength is the most reliable way to secure his own safety. Now in his second year, a much taller and broader Yu-sung walks under falling cherry blossoms. He looks back on how rapidly his first year of high school passed by. Over several months, he engaged in brutal, heavy weightlifting sessions, successfully bulking up his body. His sharp, focused gaze emphasizes his absolute determination to protect himself. Reading in his room, he notes that rom-com worlds often feature absurd dangers like aliens or yakuza. Clenching his fist, he insists his massive physical transformation is purely a survival measure. A transition card notes that he successfully played his part as a normal extra. Walking to school, he remains confident in his strategy of keeping his head down and blending in. A sudden realization hits him, casting a shadow of doubt over his peaceful assumptions. Outside classroom 2B, a cheerful voice calls out a bright morning greeting. Yaguchi Maya, the radiant main heroine of the manga, stands at the doorway smiling warmly. Ryuji turns around from his desk with an annoyed expression, sighing about his terrible morning. Sitting in the back corner of classroom 2-B, the black-haired Yu-sung is utterly dismayed to find himself in the exact same class as the main protagonist, Sakamoto Ryuji. He crosses his arms in frustration, deeply regretting his decision to choose a distant high school, only to end up right next to the trouble he sought to avoid. An ominous feeling continues to loom over him on this chaotic first day. Listening to the blonde Ryuji complain to a classmate about losing his wallet and running into a strange girl, Yu-sung reacts with sudden, sharp suspicion. The classroom door slides open as the teacher calls the rowdy students to order and commands everyone to return to their seats. Holding his clipboard, the brown-haired teacher calmly welcomes the students back on their chaotic first day of the new term. The teacher enthusiastically announces a major piece of news, prompting eager curiosity from a brown-haired female student sitting in front of Ryuji. Smiling warmly, the teacher invites a new transfer student waiting outside the door to enter the classroom. Radiant blonde hair gleams brightly as the transfer student prepares to make her entrance. A stunning blonde girl wearing a pink cardigan over her school uniform steps inside, beaming with a bright, cheerful smile. The male students instantly swoon over her foreign, gorgeous looks, prompting a light-hearted scolding from the teacher to pay attention. The teacher gently introduces her to the class, asking everyone to guide her warmly before letting her introduce herself. Placing a hand on her chest, she happily introduces herself as a lover of cats, sweets, and taking naps. Yu-sung watches with a grim expression, noting that the typical rom-com tropes are lining up perfectly. He recalls a popularity poll on a smartphone screen showing Kishimoto Rika, a highly popular heroine from the original manga series. The teacher looks over the seating arrangement to decide where the newly introduced Kishimoto should sit. Pointing across the classroom, the teacher selects the empty seat directly adjacent to Ryuji. Ryuji rests his face on his hand, looking up with mild confusion. His eyes widen in absolute horror as he suddenly recognizes her as the aggressive girl he ran into earlier that morning. At the same time, Kishimoto points her finger directly at him, her face twisting in sudden anger. She loudly accuses him in front of the entire class, recalling the embarrassing morning incident and branding him an absolute pervert. While Ryuji desperately denies the accusation, the teacher cheerfully misinterprets their history as a sign of a close friendship. Stomping past him with clenched fists, Kishimoto mutters angrily to herself about his audacity. She sits down and glares intensely at Ryuji, causing the blonde boy to flinch in sheer disbelief. She huffs and quickly turns her face away from him in complete annoyance. A sudden, heavy realization hits Ryuji like a physical blow as he sweats in sheer disbelief. Slamming Ryuji's lost wallet onto his desk, Kishimoto coldly asks if it belongs to him, leaving him completely startled. Observing the dramatic scene unfold right beside him, a heavily tense Yusung looks on with a deeply irritated and deadpan expression. He sighs in misery, wishing he could transfer schools immediately to escape 2 long years of this exhausting rom-com behavior. The classroom wall clock rapidly ticks forward, marking the arrival of 11 o'clock. During the break, a brown-haired classmate approaches Yusung to borrow his manga magazine, and Yusung casually hands it over. As his classmate happily thanks him, Yusung smirks quietly, focused solely on building his physical strength to secure his own ordinary future. He reasons that although he never read the entire manga, the rigid laws of rom-com logic make it easy to predict what will happen next. Reflecting on a collage of typical manga heroines, he notes the importance of keeping up with recent publications to analyze plot patterns. Suddenly, Ryuji grabs Kishimoto's hands with an intense, serious expression, pleading with her to step outside to discuss their morning encounter. Though initially hesitant, she agrees to spare him just a single minute to hear what he has to say. As the two walk out of the room, Yusung watches them closely and announces his departure to the restroom to follow them secretly. A braided-haired girl with glasses watches the blonde pair walk down the hallway in quiet suspense. A muscular hand slides the classroom door open with a sharp, swift motion. Yusung steps out into the hallway, a dark and menacing aura casting a deep shadow over his face. Several passing students instantly freeze in terror, trembling under his intimidating physical presence. Surrounded by a terrifying dark purple energy, Yusung walks past terrified students who whisper rumors about him being a Yakuza assassin. He sweat drops, wondering if he is a natural magnet for trouble, but finds his fearsome reputation convenient for slipping away unnoticed. With a deadpan expression, he resolves to follow them and witness the upcoming rom-com event to gather more information. He tells himself that in order to make accurate predictions, he must observe these cliched tropes in person. Stroking his chin in deep thought, he ponders where a boy and a girl would go to talk in private. His sharp, dark eye narrows as he pinpoints the one classic location used for such secret conversations. Sure enough, Ryuji and Kishimoto stand alone in the sunlit alleyway located directly behind the school building. The predictable setting of their private meeting is confirmed as none other than the back of the school. The fateful encounter concludes as the stage is officially set for the next dramatic turn of events. Ryuji bows deeply, desperately pleading that his morning action was entirely accidental. Hidden in the bushes, Yusung reacts in shock, recognizing the classic apology trap. Yusung watches from afar, cringy at the protagonist's cliché romantic comedy behavior. Rika crosses her arms, staring down at the bowing boy with intense silence. Rika struggles to hold back her amusement, a smirk breaking through. Rika bursts into roaring laughter, completely catching the anxious Ryuji off guard. Rika playfully giggles, teasing Ryuji for being far more innocent than she expected. Stunned, Ryuji asks if she is truly not angry about their accidental morning run-in, which she casually dismisses. When Ryuji demands to know why she acted angry, she admits she just wanted to see his funny, shocked reaction again, while Yusung watches in silence. Rika's bright, bubbly personality perfectly aligns with their status as the top-voted heroine in the popularity polls. Yusung notes that this classic first encounter is a textbook opening for a romantic comedy. A voice calls Yusung's name, accusing the future student council secretary of peeping on girls while crouching in the bushes. The elegant black-haired girl looms over him with her signature red fan, demanding an explanation. She stands gracefully under a warm, glowing light, looking incredibly refined. Yusung recognizes her as a tragic heroine who lost popularity and became a mere rival character. He resolves to keep all heroines, even side ones, away from the protagonist to secure his safety. Seeking a quick excuse to cover his tracks, he gestures to a nearby plant. Yusung confidently claims he was just inspecting a branch to decorate the student council room to seem perfectly normal. She looks highly skeptical about using a plain branch as student council room decor. She steals a quick, observant glance at him from behind her fan. Gently, her hand reaches out to accept the leafy branch from his grasp. Yusung watches in quiet surprise as she actually takes the decorative excuse from him. Blushing, she decides to place the branch in the staff meeting room instead. Yusung thanks her, inwardly relieved that his ridiculous excuse actually succeeded. She wonders what brought him there on the busy first day of the school term. She extends a special invitation for lunch to build rapport, asking if his fearsome reputation makes school difficult. She cheerfully urges him to hurry to the school cafeteria before it fills up. Yusung warns the president that the cafeteria has nothing matching her high-class palate. She smugly scoffs, claiming he does not truly understand her tastes. She proudly boasts that she can easily enjoy commoner foods, citing a pork stir-fried dish she previously tried. Yusung silently notes her unintended snobbery, recalling her dining on tiny portions of luxury Wagyu steak in the student council room. He bluntly shatters her expectations by stating the cafeteria lacks pork stir-fry. Panicking, she demands to know what is available, to which he suggests gyudon. She becomes intensely flustered over the blunt name, finding the term gyudon rather embarrassing. Despairing over the prospect of eating gyudon, she walks off in deep distress. Yu-sung calls her out internally on her sudden loss of confidence after bragging earlier. The student council vice president, Akaki Shinjiro, suddenly arrives searching for his lady. Shinjiro spots Yu-sung and instantly recognizes him, startling the president. Shinjiro adjusts his glasses with a knowing and critical look. Shinjiro furiously berates Yu-sung for ignoring his student council duties and running off. Shinjiro reveals that the president skipped her meal just to search for the absent secretary, leaving her mortified. Yu-sung tilts his head in utter bewilderment at the dramatic claim. She red-facedly denies the dramatic accusation, yelling in sheer embarrassment. Shinjiro vows to defend his lady's honor, ignoring her frantic protests. Proclaiming his ancestral loyalty, Shinjiro drags her back while she desperately tries to quiet him. As they disappear, the president cancels their lunch plans while Shinjiro hurls parting threats. Yu-sung stands completely dazed, entirely unable to comprehend the chaotic student council dynamics. The school day ends under a shower of falling trio while some troubles. After school, Yu-sung's towering, muscular frame draws fearful whispers at the subway station. He reflects that the romantic comedy's main plot has officially commenced today. Yu-sung notes that his intense physical training successfully causes almost everyone in his class to completely avoid him. He observes that keeping his head down prevents him from ever getting tangled up with the main protagonist, Ryuji. Yu-sung proudly celebrates his physical bulk, concluding his bodybuilding strategy was incredibly effective for keeping trouble away. Arriving at the platform, he discovers a 10-minute wait until the next train. A cold can of orange soda drops loudly into the vending machine's dispenser. He happily opens his drink, content to let the main characters drive the plot while he remains a mere bystander. Just as he gloats about his perfect plan, a small hand suddenly tugs on his sleeve. He turns his head in mild surprise to see who grabbed him. Rika cheerfully introduces herself as his new classmate, completely catching him off guard. Yu-sung panics internally, utterly horrified as to why the main heroine is suddenly approaching him. She beams with relief, expressing how glad she is to have encountered him so quickly outside of school. Approaching him, she holds up her smartphone to ask him for directions to a specific location. He wonders how she could possibly know his... He stares down at her in confusion, trying to solve the mystery of her familiarity. She simply points to the prominent name tag pinned to his school uniform jacket. Rika playfully pronounces his surname, her face lit up with a brilliant, sparkling smile. Realizing his foolish oversight, Yu-sung internally facepalms for completely forgetting about his name tag. Rika struggles to hold back a giggle at his silly, absent-minded reaction. She happily declares that she was absolutely right about him being a genuinely good person. He looks on with deep skepticism, questioning why she has formed such a high opinion of him. Overwhelmed with confusion, Yu-sung tries to comprehend the logic behind her sudden praise. When Yu-sung asks how she even remembered him, Rika insists he is exactly the kind of person she expected. She explains that his dark, ominous aura in the classroom was far too intense to ignore. She details the wild rumors surrounding him, including fighting off a biker gang single-handedly and being scouted by baseball coaches. Rika gleefully concludes that her classroom observations have fully confirmed his true upstanding nature. Yu-sung feels a growing sense of dread, realizing how quickly she has misunderstood his character. He laments his terrible luck, realizing he has accidentally gotten tangled up with one of the story's main heroines. He acknowledges her top popularity status, debating whether he should act like a terrifying delinquent to frighten her away. He blinks in surprise as Rika suddenly snaps him out of his inner monologue. She pouts crossly at his silence, prompting him to quickly offer a sheepish apology. Demanding a proper response, she coaxes him into awkwardly thanking her for the compliment. Her annoyed pout instantly melts back into a warm, satisfied grin. Rika sympathetically points out that while the rest of the class might misunderstand his scary look, she knows better. She reassures him that despite his intimidating exterior, she knows he is actually a truly kind individual. With a bright, cheerful exclamation, she enthusiastically asks him to look after her from now on. Yu-sung responds with a completely flat, silent stare, unimpressed by the classic rom-com flag. He sighs internally, realizing his plan to scare her away would have been completely useless against her bubbly personality.
He reasons that given her persistent character archetype, they were destined to interact regardless of his fearsome appearance.
Resolving to maintain his ordinary extra role, he intensely agrees to get along, radiating a terrifyingly dark aura. Rika offers a sweet, slightly bewildered giggle in response to his strangely intense agreement. He falsely congratulates himself on successfully pulling off his normal high schooler act. Remembering her original query, she displays the address for Seijo Station in Setagaya, Tokyo on her phone. She tearfully explains that the complex subway lines have left her completely lost on her way to her new home. Looking at the address, Yu-sung notes that Seijo is an incredibly wealthy district, realizing she possesses the classic rich girl backstory. Discovering that they live nearby, Rika celebrates the fact that they will be commuting on the exact same train. Rika's eyes suddenly widen in surprise as he points out a detail on his phone. He clarifies that his station, Chitose Funabashi, is only 2 stops away from her destination. Rika gushes about their fated connection, while Yusung sweat drops in sheer misery over this disastrously romantic coincidence. A sudden, shocking realization flashes through his mind as he considers his current predicament.
Yusung laments the ultimate flaw in his survival plan. He never actually read the original romance manga.
Yusung reasons that despite his extensive study of rom-com tropes, getting information directly from Rika is far more reliable than relying on a background extra's limited perspective. He concludes that his best strategy is to befriend her for valuable insights, which would also allow him to offer guidance if things ever go wrong. He envisions a hypothetical dramatic scenario where his imposing, dark aura-shrouded self uses intimidation to confront Ryuji, threatening him to meet with Rika. Yusung smiles subtly, reassuring himself that this minor adjustment in his plans to play along with the comedy arc won't disrupt the main plot. Shifting his focus to the present, Yusung glances down at Rika and warmly offers to buy her a drink from the vending machine.
Rika cheerfully accepts his friendly gesture and happily requests a sweet cola from the selection.
Rika eagerly gulps down the cold beverage. Blushing with pure delight, Rika exclaims how incredibly refreshing the sweet soda tastes. Amused by her enthusiasm, Yusung asks if she really loves cola that much, prompting her to admit she's been strictly dieting lately. Yusung is left thoroughly unconvinced by her claim of watching her diet as she smiles back innocently. To prove her point, Rika proudly displays a glamorous cosplay photo of herself on her smartphone. She excitedly shows off her fit physique in the photo to a skeptical Yusung. Yusung bluntly questions if her different appearance is just due to makeup, causing an outraged Rika to angrily protest his rude assumption. Yusung smoothly changes the subject by pointing out their train has arrived, while Rika pouts and accuses him of cheating. The green subway train speeds along the underground tracks. Nearby commuters whisper nervously to one another, intimidated by Yusung's massive, thug-like presence. Inside the crowded carriage, passengers anxiously look away from the towering boy, while Yusung silently endures the awkwardness. Rika giggles and happily notes that traveling with him has helped her find a convenient shortcut, while a sweating Yusung internally laments that this feels more like a hostage situation. Rika points at a complex subway route map, determined to figure out the best way to get him home. Yusung casually points ahead to direct her, leaving Rika hopelessly confused as she frantically checks her phone. Yusung walks onto the train carriage, leaving a panicked Rika running behind as she frantically accuses him of ditching her. Arriving at Chitoshi Funabashi Station, Yusung bids Rika farewell, noting she only has 2 more stops to go, which she politely acknowledges. As Yusung walks away, he turns back in surprise when Rika suddenly calls out his name. Smiling brightly and waving through the closing train doors, Rika sends him off with a cheerful farewell. Yusung stands on the platform as the train departs, left wondering if they will repeat this routine tomorrow. He stands completely alone under the platform lights, questioning why he of all people got caught up in this. A stylized interlude card marks the transition in the story. The school bell chimes across the campus, signaling the start of a bustling lunch break. In the school courtyard, Rigda laments having forgotten her lunch at home while Yusung sits quietly in the gazebo. A wooden bento box opens, revealing a neat, delicious arrangement of kimbap. Yusung lifts a piece of kimbap with his chopsticks. Just as he is about to eat, Yusung pauses in surprise when he hears Rika call his name from behind. Rika stands before him with a trembling, nervous expression, clutching a small lunch pouch tightly. Holding back tears, Rika asks him with deep concern if he has been eating alone out here every single day. Yusung explains that eating in the classroom makes his classmates uncomfortable, so he prefers the quiet recycling area, though Rika passionately protests that he shouldn't be eating by himself. Yusung gently reassures her that eating alone is easier and gives others time to adjust, reminding her of her own words that people will eventually see his true, kind nature. A narrative bubble highlights his practical philosophy on living peacefully while eating alone. Despite his explanation, Rika tearfully insists that he doesn't truly seem alone, clutching her lunch pouch tightly. Rika's eyes suddenly widen in surprise as she notices something. She focuses on the wooden box of kimbap resting on Yusung's lap. Her tears instantly vanish as she excitedly asks if those are Korean seaweed rolls, eagerly requesting to try one. Yusung awkwardly agrees to share, internally baffled by how incredibly fast she can switch from crying to smiling. Rika laughs brightly, asking if he expected her to just sit and cry, teasingly calling him funny. When Yusung points out he cannot bring kimbap every day, an adorable cat-eared Rika hilariously fumes, claiming she isn't just hanging out with him for the food. Yusung reflects on how quickly they have grown close, finding her cheerful personality pleasant and understanding why she topped the popularity polls. Rika happily pops a piece of kimbap into her mouth. Sparkling with absolute joy, Rika confirms that his family indeed runs a Korean restaurant, praising the delicious food. Yusung downplays the kimbap as nothing special while thanking her, as she enthusiastically tells him to praise his mother's cooking. Sitting together on the bench, Rika kindly offers to trade some of her Japanese rolled omelet for another piece of kimbap. She opens her colorful bento box, inviting him to choose a piece of the freshly prepared omelet. Yusung enjoys the delicious rolled omelet, savoring the peaceful lunch with his new friend. Tasting Rika's Japanese rolled omelet, Yusung's eyes widen in sheer horror as the overwhelming sweetness of the dish hits his palate. He internally reflects on how some people view sugar as a glorious enhancer of life, but this particular omelet is so excessively sweet that it defies all reason. Dumbfounded, Yoosung asked Rika exactly how much sugar she put into the recipe, to which she casually replies that she simply added whatever amount felt right to her. Sweating nervously, Yoosung blunt-facedly asks Rika if she is simply obsessed with sugar. Surrounded by a fiery background, Yoosung warns her that a diet dominated by pure sweets will ruin her health, promising to show her a proper zero-sugar Korean-style omelet next time. The conversation drifts to his own cooking preferences, where Yoosung reveals he only uses salt, prompting an immediate reaction of disgust from a highly skeptical Rika. Rika playfully giggles at his supposedly bizarre taste buds, while a sweat-dropped Yoosung firmly defends his seasoning methods as a necessity for healthy living. Their friendly schoolyard lunch is suddenly cut short by the loud, shrill blast of a whistle echoing nearby, startling them both. Turning to see who interrupted them, Yoosung spots two stern-looking figures standing in the distance, recognizing one of them immediately. Yoosung registers the identity of the girl approaching them as the student council president. Shaking with pure indignation, the black-haired president with red hair bows continues to aggressively blow her silver whistle. An artistic blue leaf pattern frames the tense transition as the confrontation begins. Sensing the sudden danger, a sweating Yoosung looks on warily, while a chibi, cat-eared Rika pauses with her chopstick still in hand. The president dramatically declares that while heaven might overlook minor infractions, she absolutely cannot ignore public displays of improper relationships between students. Striking a dramatic pose with a red fan in hand, she loudly proclaims that as the student council president, she must enforce proper school decorum. Yoosung stares at her with a thoroughly confused and sweating expression, questioning her dramatic accusation of an improper relationship. The president's stern assistant, walking closer, backs her up by stating that a boy and a girl hiding away to eat lunch together is the very definition of improper behavior. Pointing directly at Yoosung, the glasses-wearing assistant demands that he stop making excuses for his behavior. Completely unfazed, Yoosung calmly denies his guilt and notes how suspiciously often they have been crossing paths lately. Rika, chewing happily, stares intently at the president's hair ornaments while the assistant argues that constant encounters are only natural for members of the Grand Student Council. Caught off guard by Rika's intense gaze, the president blushes and hides behind her red paper fan, nervously asking if Rika has something to say to her. Pointing an excited finger, Rika suddenly beams as she loudly recalls the president's infamous nickname, the Dark Student Council President. The president stands completely frozen and bewildered, her eyes wide as she tries to process her embarrassing nickname. Rika cheerfully explains the widespread rumor about the president always walking around alone in her dark black uniform, admitting it suits her perfectly. Outraged, the blushing president, aggressively waving a red fan, screams at Rika, defending her black uniform as a symbol of the student council's supreme dignity. Completely unbothered, Rika suggests she simply embrace the style, pointing out that everyone else already laughs and calls it cosplay anyway. Horrified to learn that the student body views her official uniform as cosplay, the president begins to tear up as Chibi Rika cheerfully offers her a piece of egg bread to cheer her up. Rika tilts her head in mild confusion, her large green eyes blinking at the president's sudden emotional breakdown. Shaking with humiliation, the crying president points her fan at them and yells that she will let things slide today but vows to return. Clutching her face behind her red fan, the embarrassed president flees the scene in tears while her panicked assistant tries to call her back. The assistant frantically runs after his weeping president, leaving Yoosung and Rika standing in stunned, absolute silence. As the school building looms quietly in the background, a bewildered Rika asks what she did wrong, only for Yoosung to admit he has no idea. A school clock sounds its gentle chime signaling the end of the school day. Inside a quiet classroom, Yoosung sits alone at his desk with his arms crossed, watching his classmates pack up and leave. Yoosung looks up in surprise when a sudden voice calls out to him. Rika steps into the classroom with a bright smile and her bag in hand, cheerfully asking him why he hasn't headed home yet. Noticing the official school guidebook resting on his desk, she inquires about his club status, prompting Yoosung to explain he was too busy with student council duties last year but wants to join one now. Beaming with excitement, Rika enthusiastically suggests they spend the afternoon visiting various clubs together to find the perfect fit. Yoosung ponders her proactive advice, realizing that experiencing the clubs firsthand is far better than simply overthinking it. Standing up from his desk, Yoosung agrees that visiting the clubs is the best strategy, prompting an eager Rika to ask where they should start. Yoosung casually mentions his plan to check out every single club in the school, much to Rika's utter shock. An ominous shadow falls over Yoosung's face, his eyes glowing with a dark, intense purple light as he prepares to speak. Cracking his knuckles as a massive purple aura erupts around him, Yoosung menacingly declares that he wants to test the absolute limits of his physical strength. A title card introduces their first destination, the school's soccer club. Out on the field, the player aggressively kicks a soccer ball with immense force. A sweat-dropped goalkeeper looks on as the wildly inaccurate shot flies completely off target, sighing at his teammate's terrible aim. A blonde, underperforming student yells in frustration about his missed shots, while a gray-haired student mockingly points out his terrible track record. The annoyed goalkeeper and other club members watch in anger as the two arrogant boys argue loudly about who is the superior player. The arrogant, gray-haired student steps up to the ball, boasting that scoring a goal is an incredibly simple task. Suddenly, an intimidating voice calls out from the shadows, making the two arrogant players freeze in terror as they turn to face the newcomer. The two startled delinquents gasp in sudden shock as a towering, broad-shouldered figure in a soccer uniform with the number 10 dramatically looms over them from behind. With a cold and intimidating glare, the spiky orange-haired player firmly demands that the two troublemakers clear out, explaining that the team needs the field. A cold sweat breaks out on both delinquents' faces as they immediately recognize him as Ryohei, the formidable third-year captain of the soccer club. Terrified of his presence, the gray-haired delinquent nervously scratches his head while quickly apologizing and dragging his partner away to make a hasty escape. A nearby soccer player proudly watches them run, praising the captain's authority, while a calm Ryohei dismisses it as a common annoyance they occasionally face. As they walk, a teammate asks Ryohei about the new freshman, prompting the captain to admit no one has caught his eye yet, despite their urgent need for talent to win nationals. The teammate notes that recruiting just one exceptionally strong first year could completely turn their fortunes around and secure victory. Gentle snow-like clouds drift over the quiet school building, reflecting a momentary pause in the conversation. Gritting his teeth in absolute frustration, the blonde delinquent fumes over the embarrassing encounter they just had. The blonde delinquent angrily suggests going back to fight them, but his gray-haired companion flatly refuses to have any part in such a reckless idea. The blonde mocks his partner's fear, but the gray-haired boy quickly rationalizes his caution, warning him of the captain's devastating, incredibly fast kicks. Defending his pride, the blonde delinquent boasts that experience and direct combat are what truly matter in a fight, right before someone suddenly shoulder checks him from behind. Turning around in a furious rage, the delinquent demands to know who dared to bump into him, only to freeze when he looks up at Kim Yu-song's towering, imposing figure. Casting a terrifyingly dark shadow, a glaring Yu-song calmly asks the delinquent to repeat his words, causing both troublemakers to gasp in absolute horror. Instantly recognizing the infamous air of the legendary Mad Dog Fist, the two delinquents shriek in pure terror and bolt away to save their lives. Yu-song stands completely bewildered by their sudden panic, sweat dropping in confusion as a curious book-holding Rika innocently asks what just happened. In the background, nearby students whisper in awe, completely misunderstanding the situation and praising Yu-song for defeating gangsters with a single glance. Rika furiously scolds Yu-song for seemingly starting another conflict while he helplessly defends himself by explaining he merely looked back when they spoke to him. Sighing deeply, Rika exasperatedly points out that even his simple gazes cause massive misunderstandings, leaving a defeated Yu-song standing silently on the running track. Over a cute, simplistic background, Yu-song silently laments how incredibly difficult it is to lead a peaceful school life. Back on the school soccer field, a player wearing jersey number 5 gathers soccer balls near the goalpost. The player suddenly pauses and looks over his shoulder, hearing a sudden commotion rising from the edge of the field. Whispers of panic erupt as students spot Yu-song walking onto the field alongside Rika, who excitedly suggests starting their club tour with the soccer club. The club members look on in absolute dread, fearfully wondering if the notorious delinquent is here to seek revenge on their members. A hand gently and reassuringly lands on the trembling teammate's shoulder to calm his rising panic. Ryohei steps forward and calmly tells his panicked teammate to relax, confidently doubting that Yu-song's visit is motivated by something so petty. The teammate sweat drops and anxiously reminds his captain of Yu-song's terrifying reputation and his previous ban from club activities. The teammate continues to fret, recalling the endless stream of bad rumors surrounding Yu-song's aggressive nature. Captain Ryohei focuses his gaze on the approaching visitor, silently analyzing him with sharp, observant eyes. Ryohei inwardly marvels at Yu-song's incredible build, noting that his raw physical frame alone easily matches that of a top-tier delinquent. The captain confidently takes a firm, decisive step forward onto the grass to greet him. Ryohei directly addresses Yu-song, introducing himself as the captain and welcoming him while asking what brings him to the field. Crossing his arms with standard athletic pride, the spiky-haired captain stands tall and demands to know the purpose of Yu-song's visit. Yu-song directly states his desire to try out for the soccer club, asking what steps are required to join. Ryohei instantly freezes in absolute cold shock as he stands close to Yu-song, feeling completely dwarfed by his overwhelming presence. The captain's eyes drop to Yu-song's chest, internally noting how his massive, well-defined muscles cannot even be hidden by his school uniform. Ryohei's face lights up as he envisions himself and Yu-song triumphantly holding the Nationals trophy together amidst falling confetti. An intense, burning desire flares within the captain's mind, focusing entirely on securing this incredible recruit. Yu-song looks back with a calm, unbothered expression, unaware of the wild calculations happening in the captain's head. Filled with absolute determination, the captain's inner thoughts scream that he must get this powerhouse on his team at all costs. Noticing the captain's bizarre, intense stare, Yu-song's sweat drops and hesitantly asks if he is doing all right. Snapping back to reality, Ryohei quickly apologizes and changes the subject, offering to explain the club's official entrance exam. A soccer ball sits waiting on the white line of the turf as a foot steps up to prepare for the test. Ryohei outlines the simple rules of the test, explaining that Yu-song must kick the ball into the goal with all his strength from the penalty line. The captain emphasizes that Yu-song will only receive a single chance, which immediately ignites Yu-song's competitive spirit as a fiery aura flares around him. With dramatic focus, Yu-sung positions his legs and prepares his stance to execute a devastating squat jump posture. An immense crackling purple aura of raw energy explodes around Yu-sung's face as he channels his absolute maximum power for the strike. Slamming his foot down with incredible earth-shaking velocity, Yu-sung initiates a powerful high-angled kick toward the soccer ball. The foot descends with terrifying speed, threatening to obliterate the soccer ball in an instant. An explosive, blinding shockwave of purple energy bursts from the impact point as Yu-sung's foot forcefully connects with the soccer ball. The soccer club players gasp in absolute shock at the unbelievable sight. The shocked teammate exclaims at the insanity of the shot, while Captain Ryohei internally admits he could not even track the ball with his eyes. The empty goal stands silent as a gust of wind blows. One of the soccer players sweats profusely in absolute terror, unable to process the sheer absurdity of the kick. The onlookers watch in sheer horror as they realize the soccer ball has literally exploded on impact. Concluding that soccer is no longer viable, Yu-sung casually asks Rika about other sports clubs nearby, prompting her to search her guide. As Yu-sung and Rika cheerfully head toward the basketball club, a sweating Ryohei watches them leave, dreading that Yu-sung intends to systematically conquer every athletic club on campus. Rumors rapidly spread across the campus as students nervously gossip about Yu-sung's impending raid on the basketball club, wondering if he intends to destroy every single sports team. While excited spectators rush to follow the brewing chaos, a mysterious purple-haired girl with a wooden sword bag on her back silently observes the commotion. Exuding a powerful flower-framed presence, the purple-haired girl notes Yu-sung's sudden activity with intense interest as she prepares to confront him. Arriving at the basketball club, Yu-sung unleashes an explosive dunk that shakes the entire court. The basketball players scream as the backboard shatters, and Yu-sung immediately moves on to the baseball club, obliterating balls with terrifying energy-charged swings. Terrified players stare in absolute horror at a massive crater blasted directly into the tennis court by Yu-sung's devastating serve. Shocked onlookers compare his superhuman power to fantasy sports while Rika systematically crosses the conquered clubs off her heart-decorated list. Rika beams with absolute joy, proudly updating her record as Yu-sung stands beside her in calm silence. Yu-sung directly asks Rika how many sports clubs they have left to visit. Grinning mischievously, Rika giggles and asks if he is truly that eager to find out. She dramatically lifts a pair of red-framed glasses toward the sky. Striking a highly theatrical pose, Rika proudly debuts her newly donned glasses to explain her calculations. Yu-sung stares at her theatrical display in deadpan, sweat-dropping silence. Rika explains that excluding the clubs without active trial sessions today, only 3 sports clubs remain on their list. A cute chibi illustration shows her easily outpacing other students on the track. Rika points out the swimming club's benefits for building stamina and full body strength. Rika adds that the Kendo Club is excellent for developing discipline and mental toughness. Adjusting her glasses, Rika authoritatively concludes that exactly 3 clubs are left for trial today. Seeking praise, Rika proudly asks if her explanation was flawless, while a sweat-dropping Yu-sung dryly remarks that her elaborate presentation was completely unnecessary. Rika enthusiastically offers to guide him anywhere next, but Yu-sung falls into a quiet, contemplative silence. Blushing crimson in sudden panic, Rika is caught completely off guard when Yu-sung asks if she has any past acting experience besides her modeling work. Yu-sung casually explains she simply seemed like she would excel at it, but Rika's intense, stuttering embarrassment indicates she is hiding something. Fidgeting nervously, she twirls her hair while struggling to find the right words. With a soft, heavily blushed expression, Rika shyly admits she used to perform activities very similar to acting in the past. Yu-sung freezes in sudden shock, his eyes widening as a disturbing realization hits him. Horror washes over Yu-sung as he wildly misinterprets her embarrassing secret, desperately trying to shut down the dark, genre-breaking scenarios running through his head. Yu-sung reassures himself that the blonde heroine could not possibly have such a scandalous backstory, though he considers asking directly to avoid altering the original storyline blindly. Suddenly, Rika firmly grabs his arm and interrupts his spiraling futs. Eager to escape the awkward topic, Rika quickly shifts focus and urges Yu-sung to hurry along to their final 3 club trials. Noting her intense panic, Yu-sung wisely decides to drop the matter, knowing she would likely refuse to answer him anyway. Yu-sung suggests starting with the Kendo Club, and Rika cheerfully agrees to lead the way. A large crowd of students gathers outside the Kendo Club doors, whispering in tense anticipation. A student looks up from his phone in sudden, startled realization. Panic erupts through the crowd as Yu-sung arrives at the Kendo Club, his dark and terrifying presence instantly commanding the room. The surrounding students whisper in absolute dread, completely intimidated by how terrifyingly massive Yu-sung looks in person. A school reporter trembling with fear admits she is far too terrified to approach Yu-sung for an interview, despite her peers' frantic promptings.
Suddenly, Rika cheerfully pops in to declare herself as Yu-sung's official manager, offering to handle any interview requests.
The school reporter is left completely dumbfounded as Chibi Rika proudly adjusts her glasses and confirms her managerial status. The heavy double doors of the Kendo Club slowly slide open with a creak. Yu-sung perks up in mild surprise as a heavy, deliberate sound echoes from within the room. Walking forward with firm, heavy steps, the purple-haired girl mentally labels Yu-sung a rogue delinquent who is using club tryouts as a mere excuse to vandalize the school. Yu-sung locks his intense gaze onto the approaching figure. Pointing her wooden sword directly at him, third-year Kendo Club captain Fuma Yukika boldly declares that his rampage ends right here. The surrounding crowd watches in awe, noting that Captain Fuma Yukika stands perfectly firm and unflinching in front of Yu-sung. From the crowd, a passionate student loudly cheers on her sister, declaring her absolute admiration. Yu-sung calmly states he is only there to try out for the Kendo Club, asking her to explain the official trial process. Smirking with sharp confidence, Yukika notes his bold attitude and admits she quite likes his fearlessness. With a swift motion, she grips her wooden sword bag strap to prepare for action. Yukika declares that the rules are simple. Whoever lands the first clean hit wins and invites him to step into the dojo as her personal opponent. An excited student in the crowd yells in anticipation, thrilled that the match between the campus powerhouse and the kendo captain is finally starting. The onlookers cheer enthusiastically, urging their captain to completely dominate Yu-sung and noting how unexpected this showdown is. A spectator loudly proclaims that Yu-sung's legendary reign of terror will finally come to an end today. Yu-sung sweat drops in disbelief at how the crowd is treating him like a final boss villain while Rika playfully giggles beside him. Yukika suddenly lets out an incredibly loud, commanding roar to silence the rowdy crowd. The stunned onlookers immediately freeze in absolute shock and silence at her fierce outburst. Yukika firmly states that this is strictly a one-on-one duel between herself and Yu-sung. In an increasingly intense tone, Yukika warns the crowd that uninvolved students are strictly forbidden inside the dojo. Glaring with a terrifying, glowing purple eye, Yukika threatens to deal with anyone who dares to trespass before she fights Yu-sung. The surrounding spectators tremble and sweat in sheer terror, completely silenced by her overwhelming aura. Whispering nervously to Yu-sung, Rika notes that the kendo captain is on a completely different level of strength compared to their previous opponents. Yu-sung quietly agrees with Rika, his expression turning serious as he prepares for the duel. Looking at the captain, Yu-sung senses an immense, suffocating pressure, visualizing a colossal, red-eyed blue serpent looming behind her. Yu-sung instructs Rika to wait safely outside, and she cheerfully wishes him luck while admitting she would definitely get scolded if she followed him in. Inside the quiet, sunlit dojo, neat rows of kendo armor and wooden training swords sit waiting on the shelves. Yukika offers to begin the match immediately, asking Yu-sung if he is absolutely sure he doesn't want to wear protective kendo armor. Standing tall in the center of the wooden floor, Yukika holds her wooden sword ready, waiting for his response. Yu-sung dryly remarks that they likely don't have armor in his massive size, prompting Yukika to skip her own armor to ensure a completely fair match. Taking a firm grip on his wooden sword, Yu-sung calmly warns her that he won't be held responsible if she gets injured during the fight. Yukika scoffs at the warning, finding his extreme confidence highly amusing. With a swift, practiced motion, Yukika raises her wooden sword into a classic kendo stance. Yukika coldly asserts that he won't even manage to touch her uniform, warning Yu-sung to prepare himself. A tense, heavy silence hangs in the air at the dojo as both fighters brace themselves for the imminent clash. With a sudden, explosive burst of speed, Yukika lunges forward and strikes, but Yu-sung cleanly blocks the wooden sword with his own. Yukika praises his decent defensive skills for a street delinquent, continuing her rapid assault. Belittling him as just an average guy who works out, Yukika declares that brute strength is meaningless against a trained martial artist as she swiftly presses her attack. Yukika unleashes a relentless flurry of strikes, forcing Yu-sung to continuously defend as the sound of clashing wood echoes through the room. Yukika's purple eyes flash with sharp concentration as she prepares a decisive combat maneuver. In a flash of motion, Yukika strikes with blinding speed, aiming directly at Yu-sung's weapon. The powerful impact forces the wooden sword clean out of Yu-sung's grip, leaving him completely disarmed and shocked. Smirking triumphantly, Yukika calls him foolish for failing to counter her masterfully executed technique. Believing she has already secured victory, Yukika lunges forward to deliver the final deciding blow. The disarmed sword spins helplessly high up in the air above the dojo floor. Suddenly, Yu-sung's expression shifts into a terrifying demonic grin as a massive, crackling purple aura explodes around him. Yukika's triumphant smile instantly vanishes, her eyes widening in absolute horror as she senses a sudden, chilling shift in the air. With superhuman reflexes, Yu-sung casually reaches upward to catch his falling wooden sword behind his back, effortlessly dodging her thrust. Retaking her stance, Yukika sweats profusely, completely overwhelmed by the crushing, monstrous pressure radiating from Yu-sung. Realizing how easily he evaded her, Yukika internally panics, wondering if he deliberately spared her to set up a counterattack. Looking down at Yu-sung's relaxed stance, Yukika admits to herself that a single moment of hesitation could have spelled her instant defeat. Realizing she heavily underestimated him, Yukika decides she must end the fight immediately before she is put at a disadvantage. Visualizing the colossal serpent aura once again, Yukika prepares to unleash the Fuma clan's ultimate secret technique, Slay the Wicked. Yukika lunges forward with all her might, screaming that this is the absolute end for Yu-sung. Yu-sung stands perfectly still as the devastating energy-charged strike connects with blinding intensity.
To Yukika's absolute horror, Yusung easily withstands the Fuma clan's legendary secret technique, leaving her completely speechless and unable to comprehend his sheer, unearthly power. A heavy physical shockwave collides with Yukika as she cries out in sudden pain and confusion. Reeling backward from the impact, Yukika struggles to understand the unseen force that just struck her, wondering if it was a deadly killing aura. Falling to the floor, Yukika realizes she bloodlust, her eyes widening as she looks at her completely shattered wooden training sword. Yukika stares up in utter disbelief and fear, completely overwhelmed by the reality of what just occurred. Standing before her, Yusung calmly assesses his newly upgraded muscle enhancement strength while a horrified Yukika begins to comprehend his true power. The next morning in Class 2B, rumors quickly spread among the students about Yusung single-handedly defeating every sports club the day before. Whispering eagerly in the classroom, students note that the Kendo Club and Captain Yukika suffered the most crushing defeat of all. Students gossiping in the foreground speculate that Yusung did this to seize complete control of the school hierarchy while Yusung sits in silence. Listening to the wild gossip, Yusung quietly notes how quickly the school rumor mill has caught fire. Yusung realizes his physical growth is far greater than he expected, wondering if this is a protagonist-level buff. Seeing Ryuji chatting cheerfully with classmates, Yusung is glad his friend's demeanor hasn't changed, attributing it to his role as the main protagonist. Welcoming Yusung with a bright smile, a cheerful Rika notices his radiant energy, much to his quiet satisfaction. Suddenly, the classroom door is forcefully slammed open by Tojo Karen, a furious red-haired kendo student demanding Ryuji face her. The dramatic intrusion leaves the classroom of students startled and confused by her sudden angry entrance. Whispering among themselves, the onlookers quickly identify the angry newcomer as Tojo Karen from the Kendo Club. Sweating nervously, Ryuji cautiously asks Karen why she is looking for him. Towering over Ryuji, Karen angrily accuses him of hospitalizing the Kendo Club's first-year members, claiming she learned everything from them. Ryuji's sweat drops as he tries to claim it as a misunderstanding, while Yusung and Rika watch the heated chibi argument with puzzled expressions. Suddenly, Maya, a brown-haired student with a green plaid headband, steps forward to defend. Confronting Karen directly, Maya asserts that the hospitalized Kendo Club first-years were actually the ones at fault. Maya explains how those club members cornered her in an alley, and how Ryuji bravely stepped in to save her. Glaring fiercely at Karen, Maya demands to know if she still believes Ryuji is to blame after hearing the truth. Maya crosses her arms and tells Karen to discipline her own club members, leaving a stunned Karen to realize her mistake. Maya continues to speak while Karen gasps in sudden, intense realization. Karen draws a deep breath, preparing to shout with absolute conviction. Karen points a dramatic finger directly at a stunned Ryuji, loudly declaring that he must become her man. Ryuji is left completely dumbfounded and frozen by her sudden, bold declaration of love. In the background, Chibi Maya's eyes turn into spirals as she completely breaks down in utter confusion. Sparkles fill the air as Karen aggressively pulls a sweat-dropping Ryuji along, completely ignoring the surrounding crowd. Screaming in absolute tearful denial, Maya frantically objects to this sudden romantic development. Sweat-dropping in absolute shock, Yusung is utterly amazed by the sheer brutality of a sudden romantic comedy confession. Rika squeals in absolute delight, her eyes sparkling with hearts at the dramatic confession. Karen smiles with proud, blushing confidence, fully satisfied with her bold romantic gesture. As the chaotic confession scene settles, the quiet hum of school gossip begins to drift through the classrooms once more. Nearby, a group of students eagerly gossips about who Ryuji will ultimately choose to date. A student suggests that Maya is the best match, praising her sweet personality and great figure. Another classmate counters that a fierce girl like Karen who turns into a gentle puppy around her partner is the ultimate choice. Observing the lively debate from his desk, Yusung notes that the entire classroom is still buzzing about the confession. Staring at Ryuji's nervous expression, Yusung reflects on the sheer boldness and perfect timing of Karen's confession. Rika turns to Yusung to get his opinion on the unfolding drama. With a playful smile, Rika asks Yusung who he believes Ryuji will end up dating. Yusung indifferently shrugs off the question, claiming he has absolutely no clue, much to Rika's disappointment. Yusung internally recalls the original storyline where Ryuji was destined to marry his childhood friend, Maya. Smirking to himself, Yusung is confident he already knows the canon ending of the story. Suddenly, his eyes widen in complete and utter shock at Rika's next words. Winking playfully, Rika confidently declares that in the original novels, Sakamoto actually dates Tojo. Rika proudly asserts that she must be the one to guide and give love advice to Tojo. Yusung asks if she is truly that confident, and Rika proudly boasts about her absolute authority in matters of romance. Boasting that people line up for her romantic wisdom, Rika glows with pride while a skeptical Yusung sweat drops. Yusung wonders why Rika is so passionately fired up about meddling in their classmates' love lives. Rika playfully pouts at Yusung, begging him to direct some of that intense focus and attention onto her instead. High above the schoolyard, the bright morning sky signals the start of another chaotic academic day. Entering the classroom, Yusung is utterly perplexed to find the red-haired Tojo Karen sitting cross-armed and brooding alone at a desk. Yusong quietly pulls aside his classmate Satoru, questioning why the kendo club member is loitering in their classroom, only for Satoru to whisper rumors of her constant attempts to arrange a meeting with Ryuji. Satoru nudges Yusong, raising an eyebrow at the scandalous implication of a weekend meal invitation resembling a date. Lowering his voice, Satoru shares a terrifying rumor that Karen is actually the daughter of a notorious high-ranking syndicate leader. Satoru visually paints a grim picture, identifying her father as the absolute boss of the infamous Doseikai underworld family. Satoru elaborates on the rumor, explaining that this dangerous syndicate wields immense power over the entire Kanto region. Feeling completely unbothered, a dry Yusong offers a flat, monotone reaction that leaves Satoru sweat-dropping in frustration over his lack of fear. Satoru quickly downplays the gossip, reasoning that her background doesn't truly affect their daily lives anyway. Satoru suddenly gets stars in his eyes, admiring Yusong's unshakable composure and jokingly calling him boss, much to Yusong's utter disgust. Yusong inwardly reflects on the bizarre nature of their world, realizing that a Yakuza princess scenario is highly plausible in a narrative setting. Suddenly, Karen leaps up from her desk with an intense battle cry, spotting her target.
Spotting Ryuji in the hallway, Karen aggressively demands he finalize a weekend date, while Yusong reminds himself to stay far away from the protagonist's chaotic love life.
Maya courageously steps forward, loudly berating Karen for ignoring Ryuji's obvious discomfort and overstepping her bounds. In the background, their heartbroken male classmates comically weep, deeply envious of Ryuji's seemingly endless harem-like fortune, while Yusong watches with pity. Karen sprints wildly out of the classroom to pursue Ryuji, completely ignoring the homeroom teacher's angry demands to return to class. Refusing to give up, Karen aggressively invades the boys' locker room, startling a half-dressed Ryuji and his classmates. She continues her relentless pursuit straight into the boys' restroom, shouting her weekend dinner demands as Ryuji cowers in sheer embarrassment. Left with absolutely no escape, a crying Ryuji can only plead for mercy from his relentless pursuer. Later, in the school cafeteria, Rika cheerfully asks Yusong about his upcoming plans for the highly anticipated Golden Week holiday. Yusong calmly explains that he plans to spend his free time helping out at his family's restaurant, earning sweet praise from an adoring Rika. Seizing the opportunity, Rika boldly invites Yusong over to her place if he finds himself with any spare time. Surprised by the sudden invite, Yusong listens as she explains her massive home manga collection to pique his interest. Rika proudly boasts that her father's extensive collection is large enough to rival a bookstore, leaving Yusong genuinely impressed. Enticed by the offer, Yusong promises to call her, prompting Rika to happily agree to notify her dad of his eventual visit. Yusong points out Rika's surprisingly large appetite relative to her slender frame as she happily bites into a large rice ball. Rika playfully defends her eating habits, noting that her high metabolism keeps her from gaining weight easily. Rika boasts that all the extra calories conveniently go straight to her chest, sending Yusong into a state of absolute flustered shock. Playfully defensive, Rika covers her chest and teases him for staring, leaving Yusong sweating as he realizes he walked right into her clever trap. Laughing softly to herself, Rika's focus is suddenly stolen by a familiar voice nearby. Karen suddenly screams in utter shock across the cafeteria, drawing startled gazes from both Rika and Yusong. Spotting her target, an excited Rika springs up determinedly, while a sweat-dropping Yusong desperately tries to hold her back. Karen blinks in confusion as Rika confidently marches over and calls her by her full name. Karen asks for her identity, and Rika introduces herself as Kishimoto Rika with absolute confidence. Rika casually offers her assistance, prompting an incredibly shocked Karen to recognize her as the famous Kishimoto. Karen stammeringly points at Rika in pure disbelief, while Rika tilts her head in playful confusion. Karen excitedly explains Rika's legendary reputation for masterclass love counseling, leaving a nearby chibi-styled Yusong sweating in utter disbelief that her boasts were actually true. Karen blushes deeply, curiously asking how Rika could have possibly known about her private struggles. Rika deadpans that Karen's constant, highly conspicuous stalking of Ryuji at their classroom makes her intentions painfully obvious to everyone. Panicking, Karen violently grabs Rika to silence her, desperately pleading for her to keep quiet before others overhear. Completely muffled by Karen's hand, Rika signals that this is the perfect opportunity for them to collaborate. Blushing intensely, Karen listens intently as Rika offers to help her navigate her complicated romantic feelings. As the sun sets, Yusong walks home alone, pondering the deviation from the original visual novel plot where Ryuji was supposed to be the sole target of a four-way rivalry, though Rika's meddling feels highly irregular. Shaking off his worries, Yusong decides to focus on his own growth as he heads into a local gym. Entering the gym, Yusong is taken aback by the deafening grunts of muscular gym-goers pushing their limits. Yusong wonders why the facility is so noisy, only to be startled when a familiar female voice calls out his name from behind. Yusong turns around in surprise, noting the sheer coincidence of running into someone familiar in such a place. He finds the blue-haired kendo prodigy Yukika standing before him in casual attire, returning his gaze with a calm, analytical stare. An interim screen concludes the chaotic day, setting the stage for the next phase of training and unexpected encounters. Yusong turns his head in surprise, recognizing Yukika standing behind him at the gym.
Yukika stares back with a slightly startled and flushed expression.
Sweating nervously, Yusong notes the sudden influx of hyperactive men working out in the background, making him realize the true reason for the gym's sudden popularity spike. Dressed in athletic wear, Yukika wonders a lot where she should start her workout routine for the day. An internal thought bubble notes that with a beauty like her around, it is completely understandable why the gym is so crowded. Yusong admits he had no idea she lived nearby, to which Yukika explains she recently moved to the area. Yusong looks slightly confused by her revelation, while a sudden voice declares that the situation is absolutely perfect. Nakayama Yujiro, the cheerful and muscular gym director, enthusiastically introduces himself and suddenly assigns Kim to be Yukika's personal trainer. Slapping his arm around Yusong, Yujiro points out that as schoolmates they will naturally feel much more comfortable training together than with an older man like him. Leaning in close, Yujiro whispers to Yusong that she clearly has feelings for him since she came all this way, urging him to take advantage of the opportunity. As Yujiro walks away telling them to let her just observe on her first day, Yusong scratches his head, realizing the director has completely misunderstood the situation. An imposing barbell rack loaded with massive weight plates stands ready under the bright gym lights. Yukika panics in absolute disbelief, questioning if 220 kilograms is truly considered a lightweight for a beginner. Reassuring her that he has been in this business for 20 years and has never seen a beast like him, Yujiro watches as Kim confidently grips the barbell and readies his stance. Yujiro smiles proudly while Kim smoothly executes a heavy squat, leaving Yukika completely frozen in utter shock. Amazed by how easily he handled the weight, Yujiro decides to increase the load to 270 kilograms, which Kim calmly accepts while Yukika gasps in horror. A dramatic sound effect emphasizes the sheer intensity of the training session. Exhaling deeply as he finishes the lift, Kim crosses his arms while a sweating Yukika watches him, questioning if she is actually hallucinating his superhuman strength. Giving a confident thumbs up, Yujiro boasts that Kim's performance is not a display of self-harm, but rather the embodiment of pure, refined muscle and core strength. Yukika swallows hard, internally reflecting that his physique is far beyond that of any ordinary high school sophomore. Radiating a powerful purple aura, Kim stands tall as Yukika identifies him as a bearer of the mythical Extreme Yang body. A dramatic narration details that the Extreme Yang body is a legendary constitution said to bestow the incredible physical energy of 100 men from birth. Visualizing legendary heroes and mythological figures wrestling beasts, the narrative explains that such extraordinary legends were also possessors of this divine body. Reflecting on their previous sword spar, Yukika remains absolutely convinced that his peerless physical strength cannot be achieved through normal training alone. Yukika determines that she must report her findings regarding his monstrous constitution to her superior as quickly as possible. Sunlight bathes the peaceful exterior of a grand traditional Japanese-style residence. Entering the house alongside Karen and Rika, Yusong looks around as a group of suited men bow respectfully, welcoming the young lady home. Yusong internally reflects on Satoru's rumors, realizing that Tojo really does belong to an incredibly powerful and influential family. Sweating nervously, Yusong looks around with a tense, guarded expression. Yusong continues to reflect on how some aspects of this fantasy manga world still feel incredibly bizarre to experience firsthand. Suddenly, a scarred Yakuza member looks on in complete shock and sweat drops as he spots Yusong. Sensing an overwhelming dark pressure radiating from Kim, the scarred Yakuza is completely intimidated by his sheer physical size and presence. Pointing a finger in a panic, the scarred Yakuza loudly accuses Kim of being a dangerous spy from a rival syndicate, urging Karen to stay back. Karen angrily steps in front of Kim to scold her subordinate for being rude, explaining that they only came over to help her out. Kim stands silently in the background, his face obscured by a dark shadow as a tense atmosphere fills the room. Back inside the kitchen, Rika playfully teases Kim for not doing anything to help, while Karen bows deeply and apologizes for men's out-of-line behavior. Scratching his head while wearing an apron, Kim sweat drops and reassures her that it is fine, admitting he is used to people getting the wrong impression of him. Kim admits he is unsure if he can offer any useful love advice, but Rika adamantly counters that a male perspective is exactly what they need right now. Clapping her hands, Rika declares that they should start by making a home-cooked meal, which Karen nervously doubts will be enough to win over Sakamoto. Flashing a peace sign and a playful wink, Rika boasts about her unmatched status as a love guru, leaving a sweat-dropping Kim internally cringing at her absolute lack of shame. The group enthusiastically raises their hands together to signify the start of their cooking session. The wall clock ticks past 5:30, accompanied by an exhausted sigh as the cooking lesson finally comes to an end. Blushing and breathing a sigh of relief, Karen excitedly proclaims that they have finally managed to finish the meal. A beautifully prepared and sparkling bento box filled with rice, meatballs, and cute octopus sausages is proudly displayed. Holding her creation high in celebration, a thrilled Karen announces that this is her very first handmade bento, while a cheerful Rika claps and praises her hard work. Recalling the disastrous earlier cooking process filled with burnt pans and smoking green visual anomalies, Kim sweat drops, internally noting the terrifying reality of a typical rom-com heroine's culinary skills. Pointing out that the delicious smell has made him hungry, Kim generously offers to whip up something for dinner, to which a hungry Rika happily holds her stomach. Kim looks back with a reassuring, confident expression, telling them to leave the dinner preparation entirely to him. A massive, roaring fire erupts under the pan, filling the kitchen with intense heat and energy. Demonstrating masterclass culinary skills, Kim aggressively tosses rice in a wok amidst towering flames, preparing a spectacular meal. Kim expertly tosses the food in a flaming wok, leaving Rika and Karen completely mesmerized by his cooking skills. A cheerful voice announces that dinner is finally ready. Kim presents a beautifully piled plate of golden fried rice, drawing enthusiastic praise from the girls. Rika and Karen eagerly dig in, their eyes sparkling as they savor the incredibly delicious flavor. Wondering about his culinary talent, Rika asks when he learned to cook, prompting Kim to explain his history. In a brief flashback, Kim recalls how his mother woke up early to make his lunches, inspiring him to take over. Kim remembers practicing to relieve his tired mother, which deeply moves an emotional chibi Rika. When asked who prepares her meals now, Rika proudly boasts that her mother makes them, prompting a sweat-dropping Kim to question if she is flexing. Suddenly, Rika dramatically remembers she has an essential gift for Karen, startling her. Rika presents a neatly wrapped brown paper bag adorned with a pink bow. Rika explains she visited a cosmetic shop to handpick essential items for Karen. She adds that she included a detailed skincare guide, receiving a shy thank you from Karen. Karen accepts the thoughtful gift with a surprised but happy expression. Rika enthusiastically promises to help her shop for clothes next, leaving a confused Karen wondering if wardrobe changes are necessary. Rika thoughtfully evaluates Karen's usual style, noting it is quite unconventional for a high school girl. Rika bluntly describes Karen's style as middle-aged, causing a hilariously offended Karen to protest in denial. Kim silently resolves to prevent any fashion disasters while a defeated Karen accepts her friend's advice. Rika cheerfully prepares to start the makeup transformation, instructing Kim to wait in the kitchen. Pointing a finger, Rika explains that it is a secret process that guys shouldn't watch in real time. Rika excitedly drags a nervous Karen away to get ready, while Kim watches them leave with his arms crossed. Kim sweat drops in thought, reflecting on the vast difference in beauty standards between men and women. Walking together later that night, Kim notes how much fun they had, hoping Karen's upcoming date succeeds. Kim suddenly spots a local convenience store and stops in his tracks. Kim suggests stopping by to pick up a new manga volume, which Rika happily agrees to join. Kim holds a newly released comic book featuring a colorful cover in his hand. Rika happily notes their shared hobby, recalling her father's belief that manga lovers are inherently good. Rika playfully wonders if her collection makes her a good person as Kim looks at her thoughtfully. Kim warmly validates her, causing Rika to stare back with a sudden flush on her cheeks. Kim explains his reasoning, noting that her selfless efforts to help Karen show her true kindness. Kim, looking directly at her, sincerely calls her a good person. Overwhelmed by his honest compliment, Rika blushes intensely as her heart flutters. Mechanically turning away in complete embarrassment, a flustered Rika stammers incoherently while a confused Kim watches. Panicking, Rika swiftly dashes out of the store to pay first, leaving a bewildered Kim behind. Kim stares after her in confusion, trying to comprehend her sudden exit. He wonders if she suddenly needed to run to the restroom in such a hurry. The following school day, students whisper excitedly in the hallways as someone unexpected walks past. Karen walks through the school corridor looking stunningly cute with her hair styled and wearing a gold hair ribbon. Students look on in awe, wondering how such a beautiful girl has gone unnoticed at their school. Approaching a desk, Karen nervously holds out a sealed brown envelope. Karen presents the letter to a surprise Sakamoto, disguising her weekend invitation as a competitive challenge. Blushing deeply, a flustered Karen demands to know why he is staring so hard. That weekend, Kim and Rika secretly tail the pair to an aquarium, watching them enjoy their date together. Observing from a distance, Kim notes a certain detail about their interaction. Karen displays a brilliant, genuinely happy smile as she talks with Sakamoto. Pleased by her joy, Kim smiles warmly and suggests to Rika that their job here is done. Later, the scene shifts to a sunny, peaceful park filled with couples enjoying picnics on the grass. An incredibly appetizing picnic box filled with neatly rolled kimbap and inari sushi is revealed. Drooling over the massive feast, Chibi Rika is amazed by Kim's culinary effort as they prepare to eat while keeping watch. Smiling happily, Rika takes a delicious bite of the sushi, completely satisfied. Sitting at a nearby table, Kim and Rika watch as Sakamoto and Karen happily discuss their fun day at the aquarium. Standing before her date, Karen becomes incredibly flustered and nervously suggests they begin eating her handmade bento. Watching closely from a nearby table, Rika worries about her friend's nerves while Kim notes the immense pressure of serving a meal to a crush. Kim recalls how Karen sought his culinary advice, relentlessly practicing for days to perfect her cooking. Blushing intensely, Karen presents her beautifully prepared multi-tiered bento box to an astonished Sakamoto. Sakamoto is deeply impressed by the colorful and meticulous presentation of the handmade meal. Sakamoto excitedly picks up a rice ball to start, while Karen bashfully tells him to eat as much as he likes. Sakamoto takes a bite while Karen watches in breathless, sweat-inducing suspense for his reaction. A wave of pleasant surprise washes over Sakamoto as he tastes the delicious food. Joy and relief instantly fill Karen as Sakamoto enthusiastically praises the flavor of the rice ball. Gaining confidence, Karen eagerly holds out a piece of fried chicken for him to try next. Sakamoto is momentarily caught off guard by the unexpectedly intimate feeding gesture. Sweating slightly, Sakamoto hesitates before leaning in to accept the bite of chicken. Karen watches with intense blushing gravity as he finally tastes the chicken. Karen eagerly asks how it tastes as Sakamoto happily chews her second dish. Sakamoto enthusiastically gives her a thumbs up, sending a rush of pure happiness through Karen. Amused by the scene, Kim mimics the gesture and playfully offers Rika a bite of their own lunch. Rika blushes furiously as steam rises from her head, but she happily accepts the food from Kim. Kim watches her eat with a warm, gentle smile. Her cheeks flush red, Rika struggles to contain her excitement over the incredibly delicious flavor. While Rika points out how smoothly the date is going, Kim grows suspicious of his own advice. Rika wistfully confesses her desire to go on a romantic date someday, catching Kim off guard. Kim stares at her with a deadpan, shadowed expression, questioning her supposed expertise as a love guru. Kim points an accusatory finger at a shocked, dot-eyed Rika. Rika playfully confesses she got all her romance knowledge from manga, leaving an exasperated Kim dumbfounded. Exasperated, Kim packs up their belongings to follow the couple, while Rika desperately... Chibi Kim casually dismisses her protests, prompting a loud and comical tantrum from Rika.
Kim smiles warmly under his blue hoodie.
A gentle summer breeze rustles the sunlit park leaves. The happy couple strolls peacefully down the park pathway. Peeking from behind a tree, Kim thinks the cozy atmosphere is perfect for a confession. Sakamoto drops the bento in surprise at a sudden crash. A sudden confrontation halts the date as two injured delinquents block Sakamoto and Karen's path. The bandaged delinquents look on with hostile, vengeful grins as they corner the couple. The unexpected ambush leaves Sakamoto on edge while Kim and Rika watch tensely from the trees. The punks loudly accuse Sakamoto of being a player who steals other people's girls. Rika anxiously suggests calling the police, but Kim notes they would take too long to arrive.
Sakamoto demands they back off, but the delinquents mock him as Kim realizes who they are.
Kim glares intensely from the shadow of his hood. Kim recalls a junior explaining how kendo club delinquents once cornered her in an alley. The girl reveals Sakamoto was the hero who saved her, easily defeating both punks. The delinquents stupidly complain about being banned from kendo club, triggering Karen's explosive rage. Karen furiously yells that their pathetic, creepy behavior is exactly why they were expelled. Karen steps forward to confront them, but the delinquents suddenly recognize her through her beautiful makeup. The nose-bandaged delinquent mockingly asks why a tough tomboy like her is playing dress-up on a date. The punks sneer at her, calling the couple a complete mismatch. As the insults cut deep, Sakamoto steps in front of a hurt Karen to defend her. A massive, menacing thug steps up behind the delinquents, revealing they did not come alone. Overjoyed by his imposing presence, the punks loudly cheer for their formidable backup. Grinning confidently, the menacing thug challenges the boy who beat up his lackeys. The delinquents boast that their big brother, Hayashi, is a legendary street fighter. Sensing the danger, Sakamoto urgently pleads with Karen to escape and leave the confrontation to him, but she fiercely refuses to abandon him. Hayashi sneers, completely dismissing their dramatic concern and mocking their attempt to play heroes. With terrifying speed, a rough hand aggressively clamps down on Karen's white-sleeved wrist. Karen screams in fright as Hayashi pulls her close, arrogantly suggesting she abandons Sakamoto to hang out with him instead. Sakamoto yells her name in panic, but Hayashi coldly tells him he is simply in the way. Hayashi delivers a brutal punch directly to Sakamoto's chest, ruthlessly ordering him to get lost. As Sakamoto collapses to the ground groaning in pain, Kim glares with intense fury from the shadows and instructs Rika to stay behind. Karen cries out for Sakamoto in distress, desperately trying to break free from Hayashi's tight grasp. Laughing mockingly, the delinquents begin to drag Karen away while a defeated Sakamoto watches helplessly from the pavement. Hayashi continues to taunt her with sleazy promises, unaware of a massive dark presence rising directly behind him. Sensing someone behind him, Hayashi turns around to find an incredibly angry Kim standing right in his face. Before the thug can react, Kim grabs Hayashi's wrist with a crushing grip, eliciting a loud scream of agony. With effortless power, Kim hurls the towering thug backwards, sending him crashing to the ground in front of his startled lackeys. Standing tall with a menacing dark aura, Kim warns them that he will not repeat his words. Kim glares down at the thugs, demanding they keep their hands off his friend. A dramatic interlude marks a brief pause in the tense confrontation. The sheer intensity of Kim's anger manifests as a dark purple shroud as he issues a final, terrifying warning. Kim's voice carries immense weight as he demands they never touch his friend again. Nursing his bruised hand on the ground, a shocked Hayashi demands to know where this powerful newcomer came from. Rage quickly replaces Hayashi's shock as he stands up, furiously accusing Kim of pulling a cheap sneak attack. Kim stands completely still, his imposing muscular figure bathed in a dark purple energy that terrifies the thugs. Hayashi tries to rationalize the situation, desperately convincing himself that Kim is just an oversized civilian who got lucky. Watching from behind the bushes, a bodyguard nervously asks his red-haired boss if they should intervene in the fight. The red-haired, sunglass-wearing boss stares intensely at the scene, sweat dripping down his tense face. Flashbacks reveal that a little while earlier, the boss's afro-haired subordinate was searching frantically for the delinquents. The afro-haired subordinate notes they lost track of Karen and Sakamoto right after they finished eating lunch. Spotting the commotion, the subordinate excitedly points out the group's location to his boss. The men witness Hayashi aggressively grabbing Karen's wrist as she struggles to break free. Furious at the sight, the red-haired boss and his men burst through the bushes, ready to tear the delinquent apart. One of the subordinates eagerly asks if they should retrieve their weapons to teach the punk a lesson, but the boss tells him to wait. The red-haired boss orders his men to stand down, realizing that this is a youth dispute, and directs their attention to Kim instead. Looking closely, the boss is struck by the suffocating dark pressure radiating off Kim's body. Trembling as he touches his chin, the red-haired boss recognizes the familiar, terrifying sensation of this dark energy. He vividly remembers the legendary boss of the Russian Red Mafia, a man known as Ivan the Destroyer. The boss recalls a chilling one-on-one encounter with Ivan during a chance meeting in Japan. He remembers the sheer terror of facing that overwhelming monster, a memory that still haunts him. The boss wonders how a mere high school student like Kim Yu-sung could possibly possess that exact same underworld aura. The red-haired boss looks on with deep intrigue, finding the mysterious boy absolutely fascinating. Meanwhile, Kim decides to cast aside all concerns about staying low profile or keeping to the original plan. Consumed by protective rage, Kim decides that none of his previous constraints matter anymore. Step by step, Kim marches forward, determined to ruthlessly clear the garbage standing in his path. Kim calmly tells Karen to take the injured Sakamoto and leave the rest of the fight to him. Karen hesitates with worry, but Kim confidently reassures her that he has no intention of losing to trash. Infuriated by Kim's calm confidence, Hayashi charges forward, screaming at him not to look down on him. Hayashi unleashes a rapid, blinding barrage of punches directly at Kim's face and body. The delinquents cheer wildly, amazed by the sheer speed and power of Hayashi's after-image-inducing strikes. Hayashi finishes his assault with a powerful uppercut, arrogantly boasting about his opponent's inability to dodge. Hayashi's arrogant smirk instantly vanishes into sweat-inducing shock as he looks at his target. Kim stands completely unmoved, his dark aura flaring as he stares back with a chilling, cold expression. Hayashi trembles in absolute disbelief, horrified to realize that Kim did not even flinch after absorbing his strongest attacks. Refusing to back down, Hayashi grits his teeth and launches a furious punch directly at Kim. The punch lands squarely on Kim's face with a bright concussive flash. Watching from a distance, Rika gasps in horror and screams Kim's name as the blow connects. Beside her, Karen shouts Kim's name in sheer panic while Sakamoto watches with wide, worried eyes. An ominous silence falls as a crimson droplet cuts through the tense darkness. The brutal impact leaves a steady stream of blood running down Kim's forehead and nose. Despite the bleeding wound, Kim reacts with a chillingly blank, undisturbed expression. Hayashi begins to sweat, trembling as the monstrous teenager towers over him, completely unaffected by the blow. Staring coldly at the delinquent, Kim calmly declares that his opponent's attack has officially justified self-defense. Before Hayashi can comprehend his words, a massive shadowy fist rushes toward his face. Kim unleashes a devastating punch, striking Hayashi directly in the face with overwhelming power. The sheer shockwave of the blow reverberates through the park, tearing through the evening air. Hayashi's face contorts in agony under the crushing force of a strike Kim deems his one legally permitted hit. Sent hurtling backward through the air, Hayashi crashes hard onto the path as his lackeys cry out in panic. Standing over the unconscious thug, Kim reasons that anything more would be excessive, revealing he bet everything on that single punch. The punks stare in absolute horror at their legendary leader, who lies thoroughly knocked out with drool pooling at his mouth. His face still stained with blood, Kim fixes the remaining delinquents with a terrifying, murderous glare for hurting his friends. Backing away in terror, the red-haired punk desperately threatens to call the police on Kim. The delinquent hysterically boasts about his father's high-ranking police connections, a cheap threat that Kim completely dismisses with contempt. Sweeping forward, Kim clamps his massive, vein-popping hands onto both delinquents' heads with a crushing grip. The punks scream and sob in agonizing pain as Kim smiles menacingly, promising to cure their rotten minds. With effortless disdain, Kim slams both of them face-first onto the pavement. The battered lackeys cower on the ground, weeping hysterically as Kim stands silently with a blood-streaked face. Clinging to each other, the pathetic delinquents desperately beg for their lives. Kim coldly orders them to get lost and warns them never to show their faces around Karen or Sakamoto again. Crying out in terror, the punks scramble to haul their unconscious boss away while Rika rushes over.
Running up in a panic, Rika urges Kim to flee immediately while he calmly touches his bleeding forehead.
When Kim casually suggests a bandage will do, Rika erupts in fiery rage, demanding they go to a pharmacy. Startled by her uncharacteristic anger, a sweating Kim quickly agrees to her demands. With a fresh bandage secured on Kim's forehead, the pair walk peacefully through the park under the warm sunset. Up ahead, they spot Sakamoto and Karen sitting silently and awkwardly on a park bench. Sensing the incredibly heavy, tense atmosphere, keeping her head down, Karen softly apologizes to Sakamoto, feeling deeply responsible for his injuries. Sakamoto quickly reassures her, insisting he is the one who should apologize since the delinquents were targeting him. Gathering her courage, Karen looks up and calls his name. She hesitates for a moment, her face flushed red as she struggles to find the right words. With eyes full of hope and emotion, Karen prepares to finally reveal her true feelings. Sakamoto turns to look at her, his cheeks turning pink as he senses the weight of the moment.
Peeking from behind the trees, Kim and Rika watch with wide, excited eyes, holding their breath.
Amidst a gentle swirl of sunset leaves, a heartfelt confession to go out together echoes through the quiet park. The park bench is bathed in a warm, romantic glow as they face each other under the twilight sky. Karen gazes at him, her heart on her sleeve as she awaits his response. However, Sakamoto looks deeply troubled, sweat dripping down his face as he battles internal conflict.
Looking down in solemn silence, Sakamoto quietly apologizes to the hopeful girl.
Karen's face falls as Sakamoto gently explains that he cannot give her the answer she is hoping for. Stunned, Karen desperately asks why, offering to change if it is because she is not to his liking. Sakamoto quickly waves his hands in panic, reassuring her that she is far too good for him, but admits he has personal circumstances. Under Karen's confused gaze, Sakamoto confesses that he made a childhood promise to marry another girl. Sakamoto explains that until he meets her again, he has no intention of dating anyone else. Devastated by the gentle rejection, Karen looks down as a dark, rainy shadow of heartbreak washes over her. Sakamoto looks deeply conflicted as Karen asks if he still loves his childhood promise girl, and he admits his uncertainty. With her head bowed in quiet sadness, Karen asks if that girl was his first love, and Sakamoto softly confirms that she was. Standing up resolutely from the bench, Karen declares she understands his choice and promises to cleanly give up on her feelings. Karen forces a bright, cheerful smile to say goodbye, and Sakamoto waves back with a gentle, appreciative smile. The moment she turns away, Karen's smile vanishes and she runs off in immense heartbreak. Her feet pound against the path as she flees the painful scene as fast as she can. Watching from the shadows, a worried Rika covers her mouth while Kim tells her to head home ahead of him.
Rika calls out in surprise as Kim walks away on his own, telling her he will see her at school next week.
Left alone under the warm sunset, Rika sighs with deep concern for her friends. Kim sprints off into the distance, his departure leaving a lingering sense of profound sadness. Meanwhile, a devastated Karen sits completely alone and dejected at a quiet bus stop.
As Karen remains frozen in her silent grief, a pair of dark sneakers comes to a stop right in front of her.
Kim looks down at her with a gentle, concerned expression, softly asking her if she is all right.
Karen looks up, her eyes brimming with heavy tears that roll down her flushed cheeks. Crouching down beside her, Kim offers her a tissue while she tries to wipe her tears, expressing her obvious distress. Kim comically squishes her face with the tissue, instructing her to take deep, calming breaths to stop crying. Karen confesses her deep embarrassment at crying in front of someone for the first time, but Kim gently reminds her that they are friends. The word resonates deeply within Karen, who repeats it quietly as she ponders their bond. Karen suddenly confesses she knew he and Rika were tailing them, radiating shocking surprise to a sweating Kim.
Kim's guilt intensifies as Karen reveals she noticed them halfway through, leaving him feeling deeply ashamed of his lack of trust. Kim internally panics about the absurdity of getting caught so easily while tailing a date. Karen smiles warmly, realizing they only watched because they were worried, while Kim desperately tries to stammer an excuse. Karen apologizes for her failed confession, explaining she truly believed changing herself would help win back Sakamoto's heart. A painful realization settles in that there was never any room for her in Sakamoto's heart. Memories of her long-held unrequited feelings for Sakamoto flash before her eyes. The emotional agony of the rejection leaves her feeling utterly broken inside. Gripping her shirt tightly over her chest, she physically trembles from the sharp sting of heartbreak. She admits she has never felt such profound pain before, leaving Kim standing in empathetic silence. Her voice cracks as the raw emotion builds up once again inside her chest. Cracking completely, Karen sobs out her painful final confession of her deep love for Sakamoto. Kim is deeply struck, remembering how he once dismissed her as merely a fictional side character. The realization marks a dramatic shift in how he views the world around him. He reflects on how he is to keep a polite, artificial distance from the people here. He remembers drawing a strict line between himself and them, viewing them as nothing more than scripted drawings. Looking at her raw, genuine suffering, he questions how he could ever dismiss someone with such vivid pain as just a fictional construct. Resolving to act, Kim stands up tall and firmly tells Karen to get up. Karen looks up in confusion, completely taken aback by his sudden command. Kim bluntly warns her that crying here will get the police called on them for a public disturbance, leaving her completely baffled. Her tears stop as she stares at him in absolute disbelief. The sheer absurdity of his words cracks through her grief, bringing a small gasp of amusement. Karen bursts into laughter at his ridiculous timing, while Kim tells her that her laughter suits her much better.
Declaring that they are leaving, Kim begins pulling off his dark blue hey. Karen watches with wide, blushing eyes.
Kim hands his oversized hoodie to Karen, instructing her to put it on as she asks where they are heading.
Kim places the hood over her head and announces they are going to karaoke, catching her completely off guard.
Patting her head gently, Kim explains that she needs to scream out all of her bad luck and sadness. Kim marches forward, pulling her along as Karen desperately tries to keep up while calling out his name.
Snug inside the warm, oversized hoodie, Karen looks up with a soft, touched expression.
As they sprint through the night streets, Kim realizes that these people are fully alive and just like him. Guided by his strong grip, Karen smiles brightly, her heartbreak finally giving way to hope under the starry night sky. Karen smiles warmly, feeling comforted inside Kim's oversized blue hoodie. A sweating bodyguard nervously gulps and wipes his face with a handkerchief. Watching from a distance, the red-haired man wearing sunglasses praises Kim Yu-sung for being a remarkably good kid, while his emotional, crying companion wipes away tears. He expresses deep gratitude that Karen has found such a supportive and trustworthy friend in her life. Observing their quiet walk home, the guard reflects on how incredibly rare it is to find kind-hearted kids like them in such a harsh world. Smiling warmly, the red-haired bodyguard wonders if Kim Yu-sung might actually turn out to be someone truly extraordinary. Gazing in his direction, the Guardian quietly hopes that their paths will cross again in the future. The Guardian finally bids a solemn farewell to the remarkable kid. In a brightly lit karaoke room, Karen energetically sings into the microphone, aggressively commanding a deadpan sweating Kim to put more effort into his tambourine shaking. Kim trembles in absolute horror as Karen enthusiastically declares that he will be the next one taking the stage to sing. A nervous blonde girl sits alone in her pink-themed room staring at her screen. Her vibrant green eyes sparkle with pure, star-filled excitement and joy. Stepping inside a room lined with heavy weights and equipment, she marvels at her very first look at a boys' room. The blonde girl asks if all boys keep so much workout machinery in their rooms, while a sweating, embarrassed Sakamoto clarifies that his room is definitely not normal. Spotting the heavy dumbbell, she curiously approaches him in her white socks. She grunts with all her might, finding that the heavy weights refuse to budge even a single inch. Turning red with extreme strain, she desperately tries to lift a heavy dumbbell, loudly demanding if these weights were even meant for humans to lift. Sakamoto sweat drops and explains she cannot lift them because they are likely half her body weight, leaving her completely shocked by their massive weight. Sakamoto sighs in defeat, questioning how he ever ended up with her in his bedroom of all places. He begins to recall the chain of events starting with their usual walk home after school. The pair strolled happily down the city streets, chatting and laughing cheerfully under the clear, sunny afternoon sky. As she spoke, a loud, rumbling growl suddenly erupted from her hungry stomach. Hearing the unmistakable sound, Sakamoto looks at her with a surprised expression and asks if she is hungry. Sakamoto kindly invites her to grab a bite at his family's restaurant, prompting a highly excited, self-satisfied reaction from the girl who forgot he lived at one. Sakamoto smiles warmly and agrees, reasoning that sharing a single meal with her should not be any trouble at all. They arrive at his family's simple, sunlit neighborhood restaurant. She happily takes a huge bite of the delicious hot food. She ravenously devours her food and chugs cola, making a sweating Sakamoto deeply worry that she will choke from eating so quickly. With a satisfied grin, she raises her red can of fresh cola. The blonde girl gives enthusiastic double thumbs up to Sakamoto's mother, praising her cooking as absolutely amazing and earning a flattered, delighted laugh in return. Giggling with joy, she thanks Sakamoto's sweet mother, who warmly encourages her to eat as much as she likes and promises to cook even more. Sakamoto drinks his water and notes how much he appreciates his mother's traditional stew, realizing his mom has taken a real liking to her. Out of nowhere, she slaps his back with incredible force, calling him Ryu-chan and sending him coughing and spitting out his drink in shock. Wiping his mouth, the startled Sakamoto sweat drops and demands to know where she wants to go all of a sudden. Winking playfully, she points her finger and loudly announces that they are heading to his room to inspect it. Back in the present, Sakamoto carries a tray of iced drinks, deeply regretting his foolish assumption that nothing weird would happen. Opening the door to offer her the cold drinks, he stops mid-sentence as the girl lets out a quiet gasp of surprise. Sakamoto sweat drops in sheer panic as she holds up a romantic comedy manga book and teasingly asks if he is actually into stories like that. She playfully wonders to herself if Sakamoto is secretly a big fan of those light-hearted, sweet romance stories. With a forced, sweating grin, Sakamoto desperately makes excuses, explaining he only bought the rom-coms as reference material. Laughing off his visible panic, the blonde girl reassures him she was only kidding, knowing very well that he actually prefers classic shonen manga. Her eyes land on a particular set of volumes on his bookshelf, recognizing them instantly. Sakamoto smiles brightly and pulls a volume from the shelf, confirming that the series is his absolute all-time favorite, which leaves her completely star-eyed. He explains he constantly rereads the series from the beginning while she gasps in pure awe upon realizing he owns the extremely rare first editions. Sakamoto looks down at the book with a deeply reverent expression, declaring it to be an absolute masterpiece. With a genuine happy smile, he praises the gorgeous artwork and the dry yet incredibly impactful ending of the series.
The girl gazes up at him with a completely thrilled expression. Sakamoto passionately rambles about the manga's masterclass character psychology and foreshadowing, while the stunned girl notes she has never met anyone who loves it as much as he does. Holding the volume close to her chest, she beams with an incredibly wide-fanged grin, declaring her father is going to be absolutely over the moon. Sakamoto is left completely frozen in absolute shock as she casually reveals that her father is none other than the legendary creator of Golden Samurai.
Shocked at Rika's sudden revelation, Yusong reacts in absolute disbelief to the fact that her father is the legendary manga creator.
He begins connecting the dots, realizing Kishimoto is indeed the exact surname of the author and noting her distinct blonde hair. Remembering that the famous author's wife is British, he finally understands her foreign heritage, feeling foolish for missing such an obvious cliché. Yusong breaks into an anxious sweat as he realizes he had even visited her house over Golden Week without noticing the connection. Overwhelmed by the shocking realization, Yusong suddenly shouts out her family name, completely startled. Clutching his fists, Yusong eagerly asks if he can secure an autograph during their Golden Week visit, which Rika enthusiastically agrees to. Overjoyed to tears, Yusong celebrates his ultimate fan victory while Rika happily promises to introduce him to her father. Rika playfully raises her hand, asking him a curious question while he tries to compose his excited feelings. She wonders aloud why this specific series is his favorite when her father has written so many other massive hits. Yusong listens thoughtfully as Rika admits she has also recently grown incredibly fond of the series for no particular reason.
Smiling warmly, Rika begins explaining a specific part of the 5th volume that she holds dear.
She reflects on the epic main character, a blonde samurai clad in a red kimono with a katana in hand. The character's fierce devotion reminds her of an intense moment where Yusong fiercely warned others to back off. He had delivered a powerful protective punch to defend those close to him from harm. Rika is deeply touched by how Yusong can be so incredibly strong yet remarkably gentle at the same time. Hugging the book close with a blissful smile, Rika quietly reflects on how much he resembles her favorite hero. The next day, the school building stands under a bright sunny sky. Standing outside the student council room, Yusong is confused by a sudden mention of Golden Week.
The elegant student council president with long black hair firmly reminds him of his previous promise to his sister.
A text block sets up Yusong's internal confusion about what exactly she needs help with. She explains that a terrifying teacher is bothering her and mentions an upcoming student exchange program with their Russian sister school. When she expresses her desire to prepare a welcoming gift, Yusong asks if she needs his help selecting it. The black-haired president points a finger and joyfully confirms that is exactly what she wants from him. Checking his phone calendar, Yusong reluctantly agrees to help her on the first day of break, accepting his lack of choice.
She dramatically warns him that she will never.
Holding up a traditional folding fan, she laughs triumphantly while Yusong sweat drops at how quickly she locked him in. Dismissing him with a cheerful wave, she leaves him completely bewildered by her sudden, incredibly good mood. Breathing a heavy sigh, Yusong decides he will ask Rika to reschedule their plans to the following day instead. The sign for classroom 2B hangs in the noisy school hallway. Back in class, his brown-haired classmate leans over to ask if he has heard the latest school news. The friend details the infamous first-year troublemakers who got kicked out of the kendo club for causing chaos. He explains that both delinquents unexpectedly requested school transfers today, laughing as he wonders if something suspicious occurred.
Yusong flashes a subtle knowing smirk and casually remarks that they must have their own private reasons.
Relieved that the bullies will finally leave his friends in peace, Yusong settles in as the teacher announces class is starting. A close-up reveals a warm, smiling mouth welcoming the students. The beautiful light brown-haired teacher stands at the podium and kindly requests everyone to quickly take their seats. On the chalkboard, a simple English reading exercise asks which of the two items is cheaper. Yusong taps a sleeping Rika on the shoulder while reading the passage comparing the price of an apple and a banana. The teacher, identified as Mizuki Nanai, 24, smiles as she uses the date to call on student number 24. Yusong's classmate breaks into an anxious sweat upon hearing his number called, while a calm Yusong sits behind him. The classmate sparkles with massive relief when the teacher specifies she wants the student sitting directly behind that number to read. A hand slides onto the desk as Yusong prepares to stand. Standing tall, Yusong perfectly reads the English text introduction about a traveler named James from England. The entire classroom turns around in utter shock, amazed that he has achieved yet another perfect score. Flustered by his flawless reading, the teacher nervously sweat drops and asks what a suitable reply to the question would be. Without missing a beat, Yusong confidently recommends Osaka and flew in English, citing its high popularity among tourists and nearby scenic cities. The teacher stares at him with a strained, sweating expression, leaving a chibi Yusong deeply confused by her bizarre reaction. She quickly forces a bright smile and claps, praising his perfect answer while his classmates join in with enthusiastic applause. Sitting back down, Yusong sweat drops and suspects her positive praise was entirely forced since her face showed clear dislike. Mizuki Nanai glances at him with a visibly anxious sweat drop, internally panicking over how incredibly well he is performing. Yusong notices her intense gaze and sweats slightly in confusion. Mizuki frantically tries to explain her question to cover up her momentary shock. Yusong internally notes that his suspicion about her strange reaction was indeed correct. Mizuki nervously continues writing on the chalkboard, clearly terrified of the intimidating student. Yusong reflects on how others view him as a terrifying crime family heir. As Yusong walks through the hallway, classmates shrink away, whispering about his intimidating presence. Delinquents shudder as they pass him, recalling rumors of him crushing a massive gang single-handedly. Standing outside the staff room, Yusong resolves to act as normal and plain as possible. Inside the office, quick, nervous keystrokes echo as someone frantically types at a desk. Mizuki's mouth twitches in absolute terror as she sweats profusely. Mizuki's eyes widen at Yusong's flawless academic record, unable to believe his perfect credentials. Mizuki descends into wild panic, convinced his perfect grades are cover for Yakuza assassin training. A dark shadow falls over her face as she senses his looming presence. Mizuki gasps as she imagines a terrifyingly polite, bloodthirsty Yusong greeting her. In reality, Mizuki frantically stammers a welcome, trying to hide her obvious sweating panic. Yusong deadpans to himself that she's clearly not nervous, just absolutely terrified. Yusong sighingly accepts that his sharp, dangerous build naturally makes her look utterly traumatized. Standing politely, Yusong informs his trembling teacher that he is here for career counseling. Mizuki clears her throat and forces a sweet, charming smile to regain her composure. She offers him a seat, asking if he has considered his plans for the future. When he admits his uncertainty, she nervously wonders if he will inherit his family business. Mizuki's mind instantly conjures images of him as a brutal Yakuza boss commanding underlings. Hesitantly, she asks about his parents and is stunned when he mentions their small diner. Mizuki repeats his answer in disbelief while Yusong asks if there is an issue. Overjoyed by the wholesome truth, Mizuki happily expresses her desire to visit his family's restaurant. Mizuki asks which subjects he excels in, and he confidently answers math and science. Though she suggests a STEM path, Yusong explains choosing a career solely on talent is foolish. Yusong looks her in the eye, declaring he only wants to do what he loves. Traumatized memories of engineering students flood Mizuki's mind, making her agree with his wisdom. Mizuki admits teaching wasn't her original plan, prompting Yusong to ask about her dream. Mizuki blushingly asks him to promise not to laugh at her childhood dream. With a soft, nostalgic smile, she confesses she once dreamed of becoming a voice actress. In middle school, young Mizuki spent her days happily watching her favorite robot anime. Her eyes sparkled with pure adoration and awe for the performances on screen. During her own career counseling, her teacher dismissed her dream as a mere hobby. Her former teacher advised her to pursue a more stable and traditional career path instead. Though she took his advice, Mizuki immediately regretted giving up on her dream in college. She stared wistfully at posters of successful voice actresses, wishing she had tried. Mizuki bitterly realized she had let someone else decide her entire future too easily. Smiling gently, she advises Yusong to choose carefully, speaking from her own painful regrets. Yusong looks at her with deep appreciation, touched by her sincere and honest guidance. She beams warmly at him, hoping her advice was helpful to his future. Yusong bows deeply, expressing his heartfelt gratitude for her genuine, thoughtful guidance. Another teacher approaches her desk, asking about the infamous student behind the rumors. He curiously brings up the wild rumors of his supposed criminal family ties. Mizuki firmly shuts down the gossip, explaining that the rumors are completely untrue. She proudly declares that Yusong is actually an exceptionally thoughtful student. Resolving to never judge by appearances, she leaves her gossiping colleague looking quite embarrassed. Mizuki smiles warmly, feeling fulfilled having truly connected with her unique student. Golden Week arrives, bringing a lively crowd to the historic Sensoji Temple in Asakusa. Standing outside a red torii gate, Yusong checks his smartphone and realizes he has arrived quite early for his appointment. Spotting the president walking ahead, Yusong quickly calls out her title to catch up. Whipping around with a shadow of rage over her face, she yells that he is late. Pointing a finger directly at him, she angrily demands if he has any awareness of the time. A sudden spike of confusion and shock registers in the tense atmosphere. She continues pointing aggressively, scolding him for supposedly ignoring the time of their meeting. Yusong counters by showing his phone, proving they are still 10 minutes early, driving her into a flustered rage about proper etiquette. Apologizing to placate her, Yusong internally grumbles about her unreasonable logic while Rika huffs, declaring she will overlook his offense only under one condition. She points demandingly toward a nearby shop, ordering him to purchase a matcha ice cream cone for her. Yusong reacts with a flat, unimpressed expression, completely baffled by her sudden entitlement. A sudden comedic impact reverberates through the tense air between them. Nursing a large comedic bump on his head, Yusong pays the cashier while she hums happily with her double-scoop treat. Strolling together, she joyfully savors her matcha ice cream while Yusong expresses his relief that she is pleased. However, when Yusong asks if they are just wandering aimlessly and where they should look for the exchange student's gift, Rika gasps in sudden sweaty panic. Quickly hiding her mistake behind a red fan, she laughs nervously, though Yusong instantly knows she completely. Suddenly, her hidden earpiece crackles to life, addressing her with a quiet, urgent tone. The voice over the comms direct handicraft shop located 2 blocks away, suggesting she lead him there to browse for the gift. In a surveillance vehicle, a purple-haired female agent wearing sunglasses instructs Rika to act natural and use her feminine charms to appeal to Yusung. A view of the dark sedan reveals the two agents overseeing the operation, identified as Akagi Minami and the driver, Akagi Shinjiro. Inside the recommended shop, a massive elaborate golden Buddha statue stands on proud display. Emboldened, she suggests buying the giant Buddha statue, leaving Yusung sweating as the shopkeeper enthusiastically praises her choice. She proudly boasts about a refined, childhood-honed aesthetic as sparkly energy radiates around her. Yusung turns pale and breaks into a cold sweat upon seeing a multi-million won price tag on the items. Her bodyguard urgently warns her over the comms that she hasn't made any progress on the mission. Startled by the sudden voice, she gasps, while Yusung and the chills, leaving the shopkeeper and Yusung utterly bewildered. She quickly covers her mouth and whispers a response, making Yusung scratch his head in confusion. The agent firmly reminds her that she is in Asakusa for a romantic date, not to sightsee at temples, and instructs her to look behind her. Minami reminds her that she is on a date, urging her to look back at her companion. The agent lectures her that preventing her completely absorbed in his phone, ignoring her presence, of a successful date, prompting a flustered chibi Rika to grumpily comply. Stepping forward, Rika suddenly grabs Yusung's arm and dramatically announces she completely forgot something. Realizing her mistake, she grabs Yusung's arm and lies that she has a sudden urgent errand. Ignoring the shopkeeper's protests about his valuable collection, she drags Yusung out into the street. Stopping on the paved walkway, Yusung looks down and asks if she is truly okay. He places a gentle hand on her shoulder to check on her, catching her completely off guard. Blushing deeply, she hides behind her fan, claiming she was merely lightheaded before rushing to the next spot. Soon after, they arrive in front of a traditional clothing shop featuring mannequins dressed in elegant kimonos displayed in the window. They arrive outside a traditional clothing store displaying colorful kimonos in the window. Yusung thoughtfully considers the option while a silent Rika watches him closely. Yusung examines the garment thoughtfully while the president watches his reaction with keen interest. Brushing off any cost concerns, she boldly requests to see the absolute finest piece in the store. Challenge. The clerk's eyes burn with intense competitive fire upon hearing her request. The clerk dramatically presents a gorgeous pink floral kimono, leaving Yusung in absolute dread over the high price. The president calmly dismisses the expensive kimono, asking to see other options while Yusung trembles in shock. Another elegant pattern is promptly dismissed as she continues her strict critique of the store's inventory. Several more clothing options are rejected as they search for the perfect garment. Eventually, Rika stands torn between a beautiful yukata and kimono, admitting she finds both absolutely lovely while Yusung stands beside her looking completely exhausted. Finding herself torn between two beautiful garments, she sighs while Yusung looks on, exhausted. Turning to Yusung, Rika asks for his opinion on the idea, while the vendor insists that trying them on is the perfect way to choose. The shopkeeper asks Yusung if he agrees that seeing them on her would help. As the shopkeeper cheerfully leads her away, a sinister hand begins peeling off a realistic mask. The president is utterly shocked when the shopkeeper peels off a realistic mask, revealing her female bodyguard, Minami, who enthusiastically welcomes her. The president frantically demands to know how her bodyguard became the shop owner, while Minami happily declares she would do absolutely anything to support her young lady. Minami boasts that her ninja background and mastery of Kuga-style arts made borrowing the shop effortless, as the original owner was more than happy to accommodate them. The president begins to realize the hidden motive behind the kimono fitting. Minami proudly admits she wanted to highlight her young lady's irresistible charms. Declaring there is no time to waste, Minami energetically pushes the blushing, protesting president into the changing room, promising to make her look as beautiful as possible. Outside, Yusung sits patiently while playing on his phone, though a sudden frantic scream from inside the changing room catches him off guard. Yusung successfully lands a flawless high-scoring victory combo on his phone. A soft mechanical click draws his attention toward the changing room. A stunningly intricate rose-adorned black kimono is finally revealed to him. A deep blush blankets Yusung's face as absolute awe completely paralyzes him. Standing elegantly before him, the president showcases the spectacular black kimono adorned with beautiful floral patterns, waiting nervously for his honest opinion. Dumbfounded and completely breathless, Yusung remains locked in a silent daze. Overwhelmed by her sheer beauty, Yusung suddenly whips his heavily blushing face away, leaving the president sweating in confused surprise at his reaction. She peers at him nervously, eagerly waiting for his unspoken opinion. A shadow of deep anxiety falls over her face during the silence. Yusung nervously prepares to break the heavy silence with his thoughts. Her eyes sparkle with deep anticipation, awaiting his genuine, heartfelt feedback. Smiling gently, he offers her a sincere and deeply flattering compliment. His genuine praise leaves her absolutely overwhelmed and trembling with embarrassment. Regaining her confidence, the president boasts of her refined beauty with an arrogant laugh behind her fan, while an adoring Yusung enthusiastically applauds. Happily declaring she will change into a yukata next, she rushes back into the room, leaving Yusung to wait comfortably outside. The dressing room door handle clicks shut, leaving him alone again. Behind the closed door, she exhales a shaky, deeply flustered breath. Safely hidden inside, the president clutches her burning cheeks, completely overwhelmed by the intense flutter in her chest from his sincere praise. She strives to steady her racing heart, deeply affected by his reaction. Back on the street in her lovely purple dress, the president continues to turn heads as nearby pedestrians glance over in absolute awe. Even passing women cannot help but admire her striking radiant presence. Radiating an idol-like aura in public, the president walks with complete grace while Yusung nervously sweats beside her, exasperated by the excessive attention they are drawing. While Yusung marvels at how incredibly much she stands out, the president excitedly notes their official arrival at Nakano Broadway. After completing their shopping, the president casually offers to summon a private car, leaving Yusung sweating in sheer disbelief at her astronomical wealth. Yusung internally recalls his original, simple plan for a quiet walk. Feeling the heavy pressure of public attention, Yusung urges a hasty departure. A sudden shutter sound behind them catches Yusung's attention, prompting him to glance back with a trace of suspicion. Yusung quickly lets his guard down, assuming the couple in suits behind them is simply taking a harmless selfie rather than photographing them. The president leads the way forward and Yusung quickly follows. A heavy sigh of immense relief escapes from the hiding observer. Behind a nearby corner, the two suited bodyguards exhale in sheer terror, deeply relieved to have narrowly avoided blowing their cover. Minami asserts you must capture high-quality photos for her report, while Shinjiro grumbles about how oblivious Yusung is to the young lady's obvious affection. Minami sternly warns Shinjiro to keep his personal dislike of Yusung hidden in front of the president, a harsh reality he begrudgingly accepts. A friendly welcome chimes as they enter the cozy ramen shop together. Leading her inside, Yusung happily introduces the president to his favorite local ramen restaurant, which she observes with curious interest. As Yusung steps away to use the restroom, Shinjiro suddenly clutches his stomach in agonizing pain as a loud rumble echoes. Sweating heavily, Shinjiro groans to a concerned Minami that the green tea ice cream he had earlier at the shrine must have been completely spoiled. Minami scolds him for overeating, but Shinjiro desperately begs for forgiveness as he sprints off, leaving her sighing in utter exasperation. A loud flush echoes from behind the blue men's restroom door. Looking thoroughly relieved and refreshed, Shinjiro steps back into the lobby. Washing his hands at the sink, Yusung freezes in absolute shock as he looks up and sees the suited bodyguard standing right behind him. A panicking Shinjiro points an accusing finger at Yusung, who looks back in equal shock as he recognizes the vice president. A rhythmic chime rings out as the main door slides open. The president is pleasantly surprised as she warmly welcomes Yusung back from his restroom break. To her absolute shock, Yusung cheerfully reveals that he has brought along two very unexpected guests. Yusung explains that he completely ran into the vice president by pure coincidence. He adds that the vice president happened to be out in Nakano with the sister Minami. Feeling heavily indebted to the vice president, Yusung happily decided to treat them all to a meal. The president nervously plays along while silently panicking over this unbriefed, spontaneous student council gathering. She internally despairs, wondering how her peaceful date could have devolved into such chaos. The four of them awkwardly sit shoulder to shoulder inside the cozy ramen shop under a tense atmosphere. Minami apologizes in a whisper, explaining her brother's restroom blunder, which the president begrudgingly accepts. A bowl of steaming, freshly prepared local ramen is placed on the counter. The president stares at the ramen in amazement, prompting Yusung to look at her curiously. Yusung asks if this is her first time eating ramen, and she admits she has only seen it on television. Yusung assumes she is an incredibly sheltered lady, while Minami and a furious Shinjiro react in the background. With refined elegance, the president carefully sips the rich broth from her spoon. Yusung nervously awaits her reaction while she thoughtfully chews the unfamiliar food. Her face lights up with pure joy as she happily declares the ramen is absolutely delicious. Greatly relieved, Yusung smiles warmly while the president continues to enjoy her meal. Yusung generously offers to pay for seconds, while Minami scolds her brother for trying to steal food after a stomachache. Later, the group makes their way into a lively, brightly lit arcade. Inside a crane game machine, the metallic claw frustratingly drops a cute bunny plush. As the president watches longingly, Yusung confidently steps up and promises to win the toy for her. Instead, the boys end up clashing intensely on a virtual fitting game. Shinjiro boasts loudly after defeating Yusung's character on the cabinet screen. Yusung is pushed over the edge, absolutely determined to crush his smug rival. Shinjiro grins under his sunglasses, secretly vowing to make Yusung pay for encroaching on his sister's master. Noticing remaining credits on the game machine, Yusung demands a rematch, which Shinjiro eagerly accepts. The screen flashes as the brutal virtual combat resumes with high-intensity strikes. With a final heavy blow, the red fighter secures another flawless victory on the screen. Yusung groans in sheer disbelief as his character suffers a humiliating defeat once more. Shinjiro smugly mocks his opponent's bravado, urging the defeated Korean student to show some real spirit. Sweating with competitive frustration, Shinjiro prepares to escalate their rivalry. He loudly calls out Yusung's name, prompting an annoyed and confused response. Shinjiro dramatically points toward a heavy-duty punch machine, declaring they will settle things there. He challenges Yusung to abandon digital games and prove his masculinity through raw physical strength. Shinjiro slowly unbuttons his collared shirt, hinting at a hidden truth about himself. He rips open his shirt to reveal a shredded muscular torso, leaving Yusung completely dumbfounded. Yusung stares in absolute shock at the massive and possibly hidden physique of his rival. Minami facepalms in deep embarrassment at her brother's ridiculous antics, while the president hides behind her fan.
Shinjiro confidently assumes the challenge is accepted, though Yusung claims he never agreed.
Removing his sunglasses, Shinjiro smugly questions if Yusung is secretly looking forward to their clash. Under a fiery aura, Shinjiro challenges his opponent's resolve, leaving Yusung in tense silence. Surrounded by imaginary flames, Shinjiro strikes a dramatic pose to assert his physical dominance. He asserts that he knows Yusung is not the type of man to run away from a challenge. Pointing a finger, Shinjiro commands Yusung to watch his strength closely. Shinjiro stretches his muscular shoulders as he confidently walks up to the punch machine. With a mighty shout, he unleashes a powerful, devastating punch directly onto the machine's pad. The digital display rings up an impressive new record score of 960 points. Shinjiro points a finger at the stunned Yusung, indicating it is finally his turn. A stark transition marks the intense climax of their arcade confrontation. The chaotic rivalry pauses as the group prepares for Yusung's physical response. Sweating in nervous anticipation, Yusung listens as the president enthusiastically encourages him to unleash. Despite Yusung's internal protests and desperate mental pleas to stop the madness, the supportive cheers of his companions leave him with no choice but to begrudgingly accept the challenge. Cracking his knuckles, Yusung laments how quickly his simple plans escalated into an absurd test of physical strength under Shinjiro's intense glare. He realizes that the numeric score itself is meaningless compared to a far more dangerous problem he must carefully navigate. Yusung worries about the ridiculous comic strength buff his muscles possess under this bizarre scenario. Under a dramatic purple aura, he realizes that a serious strike from his fist would completely obliterate the machine. Stealing his resolve, Yusung decides to commit fully, his eyes igniting with a fiery purple determination. Throwing caution to the wind, he swings a powerful, beautiful punch aimed at the machine. His fist connects with an explosive blast of blinding white energy. Looking on, Shinjiro stands completely stunned by the sheer velocity of the strike. A massive crack shatters the heavy iron frame of the machine rather than the pad, leaving Minami screaming in disbelief at his terrible aim. The digital monitor displays a score of 0, prompting the chibi president to comically declare his attempt an utter failure. Sweating with embarrassment, Yusung stands sheepishly as the president and Minami playfully lecture him on his lack of focus. Though relieved to have avoided setting a record, Yusung freezes as a sudden, ominous creaking noise echoes from the machine. With a dramatic crash, the massive punching pad tears completely off the stand and collapses onto the floor. The group stares in absolute speechless silence at the detached pad lying defeated on the ground with a comical halo. Shinjiro stands completely dumbfounded, frozen in a silent, wide-leg gaze at the wreckage of the machine. Attempting to process the absurd display of raw power, Shinjiro slowly lowers his sunglasses in utter bewilderment. Sweat dripping down his face, he quietly adjusts his glasses to hide his growing shock. Shinjiro boldly declares he will win by a landslide next time, while a sweating Yusung internally rejoices at having survived the confrontation. Seeking a change of pace from the chaotic arcade, the group's attention turns toward a nearby photo booth. Yusung suggests taking sticker photos together to create a lasting memento of their lively day out. The president is pleasantly surprised by the suggestion, while Minami eagerly clasps her hands in excitement. Smiling warmly, Yusung ushers everyone inside the cozy booth as they eagerly prepare for their photos. The camera flashes, capturing the four of them smiling brightly for their very first group shot. For the next photo, chaos erupts as Shinjiro comically holds Minami in a headlock while Yusung and the president laugh. Adorned with cute animal headbands, the group flashes cheerful peace signs, radiating pure happiness. Striking a cool pose, they cap off their session wearing hilarious oversized sunglasses. A completed sheet of colorful sticker photos showcases the wonderful memories they just created. As they admire the prints, Shinjiro complains about his closed eyes while the president and Minami joyfully praise the results. They zoom in on the hilarious picture of Shinjiro squeezing his protesting sister in a headlock. Clutching the photo sheet tightly, the president lets out a soft, incredibly happy laugh. Noticing her genuine joy, Yusung looks down at her with a remarkably tender and warm smile. Eager to keep the fun going, the group eagerly heads inside a lively local karaoke joint. Inside the private room, Shinjiro sings with passionate intensity while a fatigued Yusung plays the tambourine and Minami covers her ears. Blushing slightly, the president takes her turn, holding the microphone gently close to her heart. She begins to sing, her sweet voice filling the room with a beautiful, enchanting melody. Her performance leaves the group absolutely mesmerized, with Yusung giving enthusiastic double thumbs up while the siblings applaud. Moving on to a duet, Yusung and the president sing together in perfect, blissful harmony. She sings with a bright, radiant smile, completely lost in the joyous moment. Smiling back, Yusung matches her cheerful energy, thoroughly enjoying their shared song. As night falls over the sparkling city skyline, the time comes for them to finally bid farewell. Yusung waves goodbye from outside the car while a blushing president bids him safe travels, leaving her exhausted bodyguards slumped in defeat inside. Shaking with sheer exhaustion from the day's endless antics, Minami and Shinjiro look completely drained. Turning her attention toward her bodyguards, the president listens as they sheepishly address her. Bowing in deep apology, Minami and Shinjiro express their regret for accidentally The president gazes at them in calm, thoughtful silence as they nervously wait for her response. Her quiet expression softens into a warm, incredibly gentle smile. She reassures her loyal bodyguards that she genuinely had a wonderful time, completely easing their worries. Looking out, she fondly reflects on the precious memories of her walk with Yusung, holding on to the joy of their beautiful day. Reflecting on their trip, Yusung fondly recalls the simple joy of shopping together. Seated in the car, the president warmly smiles while looking at her precious memories. A nostalgic flashback reveals her loyal companions adorning her with the flower crown during childhood. Looking tenderly at her bodyguards, the president expresses her deepest gratitude for their constant support, thanking them for always staying by her side. Bowing her head slightly, she offers her sincere thanks, completely touching the hearts of her emotional companions. Tears of absolute devotion stream down Minami's face as she looks on. Overcome with gratitude, the crying bodyguards comically vow to serve their master for life, much to her amusement. Smiling warmly, the president reassures them that this is not their last opportunity, playfully asking if they will help her properly next time. The white van speeds off into the night as the bodyguards passionately vow to make her next date a grand success. Inside a quiet studio, a focused manga artist with a gray-blue ponytail diligently drafts panels on a digital tablet. Hearing a soft knock at his studio door, the manga artist turns around. Sliding the door open, a cheerful blonde girl with a black heart choker warmly greets her father. Rika enters the room to ask her father if he remembered her friend's visit tomorrow, to which he warmly confirms she has told him multiple times. The artist smiles warmly, secretly looking forward to meeting his daughter's guest. A stubbled, knowing smile spreads across the manga artist's face. Holding a stylus, the smiling father identifies the boy his daughter always talks about, Kim Yu-sung. The next day, the gray-haired artist silently observes his daughter's guest. Yu-sung freezes in a nervous sweat upon facing the legendary artist. Bowing in absolute reverence, Yu-sung loudly declares it an honor to meet Kishimoto-sensei, who notes the boy looks exactly like a classic shonen protagonist. Sweating with intense nervousness, Yu-sung is struck with awe as he realizes he is meeting the legendary creator. An epic fiery aura rises behind the artist, celebrating him as the legendary manga god Musashi. Welcoming the young man inside, Kishimoto-sensei mentions that his wife went all out for his arrival, prompting a polite bow from Yu-sung.
Inside, an elegant blonde woman giggles softly while Rika, wearing a kitchen apron, eagerly prepares to serve their hot meal.
Yu-sung's eyes sparkle at the incredible culinary spread as his hosts warmly invite him to eat as much as he likes. Seated around the grand table, the group prepares for dinner as Yu-sung politely offers his thanks for the meal. During the feast, Kishimoto-sensei casually mentions that Rika has been talking about Yu-sung non-stop, catching the boy completely off guard. With a keen gaze, the father explains his desire to meet him, noting it is the first time his daughter has gotten close to a boy. Feeling the incredibly stiff atmosphere, Yu-sung sweats nervously and desperately prepares to clear up any potential romantic misunderstandings. Sweating profusely, Yu-sung frantically clarifies that they are just normal friends who met when she got lost on the first day, while Rika blushes. Embarrassed by her father's directness, Rika loudly scolds him for bringing up such topics while Yu-sung is eating, warning him he might choke. Laughingly, Kishimoto-sensei admits he was worried about potential suitors, prompting a fiercely defensive and blushing response from Rika on Yu-sung's behalf. Internally, Yu-sung understandingly rationalizes that any protective father would feel touchy about his daughter's first male friend. Yu-sung casts a quiet, sideways glance at the flustered blonde girl. Gazing at her cute, blushing face, Yu-sung internally admits that he would also see any approaching boys as wolves if he were her father. A close-up of Rika's irritated green eye highlights her frustration as she reminds her father she warned him not to say weird things. Turning to Yu-sung for validation, Rika asks for his agreement, leaving him sweating in tense, authent silence. Rika questions why her father is looking at her that way, while a sweating Yu-sung quickly brushes off the awkward situation as nothing. In their comedic chibi forms, Rika fumes over the embarrassing comments while Yu-sung frantically tries to calm her down. The elegant mother smiles warmly, reflecting on how much Rika has grown, while her husband fondly agrees about their daughter leaving the nest. Kishimoto-sensei looks down with a gentle, deeply nostalgic expression. A nostalgic flashback depicts young Rika running forward with her bunny plush. Moved by the nostalgic memory of holding his daughter's hand, Kishimoto-sensei gets comically tearful, trying to hide his emotional outburst. His wife smiles warmly, watching her husband's emotional outburst with quiet amusement. Composing himself, Kishimoto-sensei addresses Yu-sung, stating he heard the boy is a big fan of his manga. The artist graciously invites Yu-sung to tour his studio after dinner, sparking an ecstatic, starstruck acceptance from the overjoyed fan. A quiet sigh echoes through the modern hallway of the house. Clutching his paper bag, Yu-sung is absolutely thrilled to see the studio and get an autograph, while Rika internally worries about a potential recruitment trap. Walking down the spacious hallway, Yu-sung proudly calls the artist his most respected figure, which Rika accepts with a knowing smile. Presenting her room with a grand gesture, Rika proudly welcomes him to her pink-themed sanctuary filled with shonen manga. Yu-sung marvels at the extensive manga collection, prompting Rika to happily note that everyone shares his exact reaction. Yu-sung excuses himself to fetch some tea and snacks, prompting a cheerful acknowledgement from awaiting Rika. Peeking back into the room with a playful warning, Rika strictly commands Yusong not to touch anything during her brief absence. Left alone, Yusong sits on the floor, suddenly hit by the awkward realization that this is his very first time in a girl's bedroom. Deciding to distract himself from the rising awkwardness, Yusong pulls out a smartphone to pass the time with a game. The quiet atmosphere is suddenly shattered when a cheerful, blonde-haired woman unexpectedly pops her head into the room with a bright greeting. Stunned by her sudden entrance, a flustered Yusong politely addresses the elegant woman, who waves back with a warm and welcoming smile. Amused by his formal greeting, she gently requests that he call her Maria instead, joking that the title makes her feel far too old. Though internally sweating over the casual name drop, Yusong politely asks what brings her by, only to be left completely bewildered when Maria happily offers to share her daughter's secret history. With a mischievous wink, Maria dramatically presents an orange-covered photo album showcasing Rika's childhood memories. As Maria begins flipping through Rika's earliest childhood photos, a deeply conflicted Yusong struggles between his sheer curiosity and the guilt of invading her privacy. Yusong's eyes widen in absolute shock. Peeking at the pages filled with elaborate cosplay photos, Yusong realizes that Rika truly inherited her mangaka parents' creative flair and theatrical quirks. Yusong's anxiety spikes once more as Maria casually reveals that the adorable child cosplay photos were not even the real dark past she wanted to show him. The real secret stands revealed in a dramatic photo of a teenage Rika fully committed to a striking, heavily stylized gothic Lolita cosplay phase. Returning to her room, Rika is frozen in absolute horror as she realizes her most embarrassing secret has just been exposed. Overwhelmed by sheer panic, Rika desperately stammers, praying that her mother hasn't actually shown him the dreaded pictures. Maria cheerfully confirms her betrayal with a bright smile, while a deeply rattled Yusong sits in stunned, awkward silence behind her. Looking at the sheer scale of her past dedication, Yusong realizes with a sweat drop just how incredibly deep Rika was in her passionate anime phase. Blushing furiously, Rika frantically shakes Yusong, desperately pleading with him to believe that her stormy, embarrassing cosplay phase is strictly in the past. With her mission of playful embarrassment complete, a giggling Maria slips out of the room, leaving behind an incredibly flustered and screaming daughter. An intensely awkward silence descends upon the room as both teenagers sit on the floor, struggling to process the sudden chaotic intrusion. Still hiding her burning red face, Rika quietly begs him to keep her secret safe, to which Yusin gently and reassuringly agrees. Whining in pure misery, a deeply mortified Rika clutches her burning cheeks as tears of sheer embarrassment well up in her eyes. Softened by her genuine distress, Yusong offers a comforting, gentle smile, trying his best to ease her overwhelming embarrassment. Yusong reassures her that everyone survives an embarrassing middle school phase, prompting a pouting Rika to ask if he ever did anything similar. Rubbing his cheek with a sheepish blush, Yusong admits that his own middle school years were actually quite embarrassing as well. Seizing the chance to make her feel better, Yusong offers to share his own secret history, which a curious Rika eagerly agrees to see. Flipping through his photo library, Yusong finally locates the evidence of his own youth as Rika leans in close, brimming with anticipation. Yusong turns his screen around to display the photo, eliciting an immediate gasp of surprise from the waiting girl. Staring wide-eyed at the glowing screen, Rika is left completely speechless by the visual revelation before her. The photo reveals a younger, rebellious-looking Yusong covered in temporary tattoos, bandages, and studs, striking a highly theatrical Black Dragon Chunibyo pose. Finding him incredibly adorable and scrawny in his past, Rika wonders aloud how he transformed into the muscular young man sitting beside her today. Blushing, Yusong explains that his deep-seated insecurities about being weak drove him to start working out before high school. He notes with a sheepish smile that his efforts were fortunately paired with a very timely physical growth spurt. Rika wistfully wonders if she could have met his younger self, prompting a playful tease from Yusong about whether she dislikes how he turned out. Caught off guard by his question, Rika suddenly blurts out a passionate declaration of how much she loves him exactly as he is now. Realizing the heavy romantic implications of her accidental confession, Rika instantly covers her mouth in sheer wide-eyed panic. The sudden confession leaves Yusong's heart racing as he stares at her, his cheeks flushing a warm pink. An intensely loaded romantic tension fills the air as they lock eyes, both too overwhelmed and flustered to speak. The space between them crackles with the loud rhythmic thumping of their racing hearts. Wrapped in a warm, sparkling aura, the two of them remain frozen in the sweet, breathless aftermath of her slip-up. Breaking the heavy silence with a nervous stammer, Yusong quietly calls out her name once more to break the spell. Stuttering as she tries to find her voice, a deeply flustered Rika searches for a way to explain her sudden outburst. In a desperate bid to cover her tracks, Rika loudly and frantically insists that she only views him as an exceptionally close friend.
Swallowing his complicated emotions, Yusong forces a wide, sweat-drop-filled smile and quickly agrees to her just friend's defense. The two of them break into overly cheerful, highly unnatural laughter, desperately trying to sweep the awkward tension under the rug. Once the forced laughter fades, they lapse back into an uncomfortable, quiet silence, both studiously avoiding eye contact. Seeking to clear the stifling air, Yusong gently addresses Rika to redirect the conversation. With a sincere smile, Yusong expresses his deep gratitude for her invitation, noting how incredible it was to meet the legendary artist. Looking up at him with a soft blush, Rika listens as Yusong warmly declares that this day will remain a treasured memory for the rest of his life. Flushed with warmth, Rika looks up and gratefully acknowledges how much Yusong has supported her since his very first day at school. Smiling gently, Yusong listens as she warmly extends an open invitation to visit whenever he wants, which he happily accepts. Sitting side by side in her room, the two share a tender, lighthearted moment, the lingering awkwardness finally melting away into comfortable laughter. As a vibrant orange and purple sunset washes over the neighborhood, a gentle suggestion is made to stay a little longer. Standing outside under the glowing sky, Yusong notes that he has already stayed for quite some time. He looks down at his sneakers and explains that it is probably time for him to head home for dinner. Flashing a bright smile and a playful peace sign, Rika excitedly confirms her family's upcoming trip to Hawaii. In their adorable chibi forms, Yusong playfully warns her to wear sunscreen, while Rika teases him about how much he will miss her during their week apart. When Rika jokingly asks if he would swim to Hawaii to help her, Yusong has a brief, intense daydream about crossing the ocean on sheer physical prowess before quickly dismissing the absurd thought. Laughing, Yusong counters that he would simply use his savings to buy a plane ticket, earning an amused, teasing compliment from Rika. With a cheerful wave, Rika bids him farewell until school starts, and Yusong waves back with a bright matching smile. Turning to walk away under the warm evening sun, Yusong smiles softly as he bids her a final goodbye. Watching his departing figure, Rika's gaze turns quiet and deeply contemplative, her cheeks flushing a soft pink. Clutching her shirt near her heart, she stands frozen in silent, overwhelming emotion as her feelings stir within her. The evening sky burns in deep shades of violet and gold above them. Yusong continues his quiet walk down the street, his silhouette bathed in the warm light of the setting sun. In a fond flashback, Rika recalls her shock upon discovering that Yusong lived only 2 train stops away from her. She vividly remembers sitting on a park bench together, enthusiastically praising his mother's delicious kimbap while he modestly downplayed it. Walking side by side with their school books, Rika had internally realized back then just how genuinely good of a person he was. She remembers him shielding her protectively in a crowded station, telling her to hold on just a bit longer. His focused, protective expression in the middle of the bustling crowd had deeply touched her. With a firm, reassuring grip, he had reached out to pull her through the rush so they wouldn't miss their train. The memory fades, leaving only the warmth of Yusong's kind smile lingering in the evening air. Back in the present, Rika watches him walk away, her eyes filled with a mixture of longing and affection. Standing alone under the twilight glow, a soft, beautiful smile graces her face as she embraces her blossoming feelings. The scene shifts to a bright, clear afternoon amidst towering city high-rises. Heavy footsteps echo on the paved street as someone walks briskly through the city. Yusong strolls down the sidewalk, checking his phone, satisfied with his new manga purchases and deciding to find a place to eat. A rapid, heavy footstep suddenly cuts through the quiet neighborhood. A blue-haired girl yells a frantic warning as she comes charging down the street at full speed. Hearing the sudden commotion, Yusong turns around in complete bewilderment. To his absolute shock, the athletic girl in a trench coat and beret leaps high into the air, vaulting right over a stone wall. Suddenly, a stray pair of pink underwear flies directly through the air as the girl urgently tells him to keep quiet. With comedic force, the flying garments smack Yusong directly in the face, leaving him utterly stunned. He is left in complete, speechless disbelief at the bizarre situation. The sheer absurdity of the classic rom-com accident triggers a massive comedic nosebleed as Yusong processes what just happened. Sweating profusely with a bleeding nose, Yusong catches the falling girl in a dramatic princess carry, furiously pointing out how ridiculous the situation is. The blue-haired girl merely clicks her tongue in annoyance, prompting an exasperated Yusong to demand some gratitude after saving her. Suddenly, a group of men in dark suits comes running around the corner, shouting the girl's name, Sasha, and throwing Yusong into a panic. Before he can react, Sasha grabs him by the hand and desperately drags him along, begging for his help. Spotting a dead end ahead, Yusong quickly stops her and points out that they are heading the wrong way. Taking the lead, Yusong pulls Sasha in the correct direction, urging her to follow him closely. They dive quickly toward the entrance of a nearby ramen shop as the door chime rings out. Ducking out of sight inside the shop, the two watch through the window as the group of suited pursuers runs right past them. Peeking over the counter, they sweat nervously in tense silence until the coast is completely clear. Sasha lets out a massive sigh of relief, while a weary Yusong stands beside her, completely exhausted by the sudden cardio. Smiling brightly, Sasha thanks him for the rescue, but a suspicious Yusong demands to know exactly why she was being chased. Suggesting they sit down first, she introduces herself as Sasha and asks for his name, to which he replies. Surprised by his name, Sasha asks if he is a tourist, prompting Yusong to clarify that he is second-generation Korean-Japanese.
Leaning in with an incredibly intense comedic glare, Yusung angrily tells her not to dodge the question, while a sweating Sasha evasively mutters that it is hard to explain. With an unreadable, shadowed expression, Yusung bluntly decides to make his exit, wishing Sasha luck with her ongoing escape. In a panic, Sasha desperately cries out for him to stop.
She passionately argues that a plea from an attractive girl deserves immediate cooperation.
Turning back to face her, Yusung dryly dismisses her logic as she loudly insists that helping first and questioning later is simply basic common sense. Realizing his hesitation, Sasha frantically reaches into her bag and offers financial compensation, catching Yusung completely off guard as he notices she is pulling out an absurd amount of hard cash. She proudly displays thick, banded stacks of 10,000 yen bills that glitter brightly under the light. Instantly swayed by the massive bribe, a sweat-dropping Yusung shakes her hand to seal the deal, prompting a highly judgmental scoff from Sasha about his mercenary nature. Accepting the situation, Sasha sighs and prepares to finally reveal her true identity, since she can no longer hide it from him. With a gentle rustling sound, she removes her plaid hat, letting her long, silky blue hair cascade freely down.
Yusung stares at her in absolute bewilderment, completely stunned by the unfolding transformation.
Sasha prepares to speak as her lips part slightly in the quiet chop. Framed by a sparkling aura of roses, she fully reveals her strikingly beautiful features, looking directly at him with calm, elegant blue eyes. Yusung's mind completely implodes with shock as he suddenly recognizes her face from a popular anime franchise, frantically realizing that she is the exact likeness of a beloved famous heroine named Ale from the series Scramble Love.